I love the episode on shrines because the thing with backwards is just like there's so much to dig into their music, and there's so little writing about it, and it pisses me off.
Well, I mean, one of the things we get into in the Shrines episode is there's writing about, like, what writing there is about it is not great for the most part. Like, Weiss writes about it really well, like Passion of the Weiss.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
The Pitchfork review of it's really good because it's a Weiss writer about it, but a lot of the fucking writing about, like, the Call Out Culture episode about Shrines is great because it's like them bitching about how, oh yeah, everybody's like, oh, is this like, nihilistic industrial record? And they're like, no, it's not.
I don't know.
Not at all.
I saw those takes within the first few days that the record was coming out, and I was really confused. I felt like I was listening.
You guys listen to track 2, like Solarium, where like it's like this fucking literal bright sunshiny beat where Elucid's rapping about being more than the sun.
I was just like, what do y'all? Yeah, that was really weird. I feel like a lot of that was just like people were just like, obviously like Rome was dark and like Paraffin was dark. But, like, I feel like people kind of just made their mind up. It's like, well, this must be dark, too. And then that's kind of how... And a lot of people just roll with that.
I feel like their music takes so long to digest that people finally had started to get around to digesting Rome and Paraffin. And they're like, oh, these are dark-ass records. So the next one must be dark, too. And we always have to come out with something like a hot take as soon as a record comes out. So this is dark, too, right? They didn't even really absorb the fucking record. And there are dark moments on it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
It's their most optimistic record, and they've said that.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying, like, that shit is, like, some fucking, like I don't know, like, 3 feet high and rising or some shit. Like,
it ain't Chance the Rapper.
Yeah, exactly. It's not my Chance the Rapper.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick 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 faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick
Have you heard any Moor Mother's solo stuff?
Yes, I have, and I have not given it too much attention, unfortunately, but I heard Circuit City. I've heard the Irreversible Entanglement stuff. I'd actually heard some Moor Mother without knowing it was her, like knowing her from her other like hip hop connections. I heard the Irreversible Entanglements just from, I think, from your list, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I mean, I guess this is the time. We don't really do formal intros on the podcast, and Mark's I'm bad at them, but this is the Living Off Borrowed Time podcast, and we're joined this week by Koza12 from RYM, Brian. Great to have you. One of the best list makers on the site, has really great yearly lists, and definitely been somebody who's been on Moor Mother more than a lot of people, no pun intended. Like, you definitely were on like Irreversible Entanglements well before Moor Mother was something that a lot of the internet was on.
Yeah, I can't remember how I came across it, but I mean, I follow a lot of jazz stuff, and it just popped up there, and their first self-titled debut record was incredible, and then ever since then, I've been paying attention to what this woman has been doing, and it's been in like 5,000 different genres, and it's all been good. So
like she's all over the place. She's all over like pretty much every like hip hop artist that I like, and that whole like backwoods Wrecking Crew, Rubaiyat scene is fucking with her.
Yeah, and she was also on. There was a record by Pink Sifu called Negro that came out earlier this year.
Yeah, and they finally got around to fucking listening to it months late, and it's fucking tremendous.
It's a great record, though. I do think it's funny that like I've seen so many people like, okay, so Bandcamp, I love Bandcamp, right? So they've been putting out their list for like best like insert genre here of the year or whatever, and then like it was included as a hip hop record. I was like, I listened to the album and
there's nothing hip hop about that record whatsoever.
Yeah, there is rapping on it, but I was like, would y'all have put this record in the hip hop category?
There's hip hop in it in terms of the way Sifu like delivers vocals sometimes, but I consider that more like a hardcore punk record than anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And like when I saw that, I was like, so like if Pink Sifu was like was white or Pink Sifu wasn't a rapper, would y'all still put that in the hip hop category? Because I was kind of confused. But that's a really good.
Just looking at like what other shit Sifu's done, like Be Kool-Aid or Durant. That was Sifu, right? Durant was Sifu, right?
No, Durant was Logi and someone else.
Sifu. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Sifu did a really good record with Fly Anakin that came out.
Yeah, he did Fly Sifu's this year. That was a really good record. I'm trying to think. Sifu did a collab record with a rapper actually, where he was doing production, and that wasn't Durant. That was Yogi.
It was the Kai Solo. It was the Kai Solo, I think. It was it was Black something. Like I'm not super familiar with the Kai Solo stuff, so I can't remember off the top.
Kai Solo is one of those dudes who's put out like a bunch of shit this year because obviously for so many. That was one of the things I wanted to discuss in this episode is that I feel like so many artists have, without with the whole live performance aspect being taken out of what they can do, have just been putting out so much material. But I think that in some cases that's just like a content dump. But I think in the terms of what Backwoods has been doing, Billy and Elucid, and their whole scene, there's a cohesion to it, where it's not just like in the studio putting out songs, there's a thematic cohesion to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like whenever these guys release something, it's always, there's like always like a purpose behind it, like it's never like, as you said, it never feels like a dump to me. I could accuse I don't want people like to be angry at the comments and stuff, but sometimes I get that. This year, I felt that kind of dump feeling with Griselda to some extent. Like,
yeah, I think
I feel that a little bit. But I like them.
I get it with Griselda because they did saturate the market, but I think that was mainly Gunn put out two kind of sort of albums. Pray for Paris is great. The other two, I think, were not so much at that level, but I think Conway put out two things that were really well crafted, and I think Benny obviously picked his spot. And I think that, you have they picked up Boldy, and Boldy had Main Drum McNichols, which came over a 10-year period and is obviously
that album was fucking work. Yeah, that album was fucking great. That album was amazing. And the thing is, like, I feel that way about them, but I can't really blame them just because, like, how Griselda have gotten famous essentially, have maintained themselves in the conversation for the past, like, I guess, like, 14 months. I mean, the only real way to do that, specifically with the type of music that they release, which is not the popular sound, is to kind of just keep on hitting people with what they want. Like, people are always talking about them. It's because there's always new shit to talk about.
But it's not a new business model, though. I mean, it goes back to Master P. Master P did that shit, and then you have like the whole mixtape flood. Like Wayne did that shit, Currency did that shit, Gucci did that shit. Like, it's not a new business model. They're just very good at doing it. I think they kept, for the most part, the quality level very high.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, Currency, I remember I had the same experience with Currency. I think, like, around when the pilot talks were coming out and I was getting really into Currency, I feel like that's when he started to release a lot of stuff, and I kind of lost track. Because, like, I like Currency to, like, an extent, but, like I was never fucking with Currency like how I'm messing with, like Elucid or Billy Woods or something. It's just different.
I can understand that, but I think that Currency actually has kept the quality level very high. And when we do the 17-part Currency series that we're going to have to do eventually because we can't fit it into 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 episodes because shit. But I think that you're going to find that if you actually go through his catalog, the quality level is mostly very high. There's one or two that are a little under the line, but the thing about Currency is that he definitely raps about the same shit. And to transition into Billy Woods, one of the many, many reasons he's probably the best rapper alive right now is he doesn't rap about the same shit. And he raps about everything so fucking well.
I know, honestly, there's so many lines just like on Brass where I'm just like, who the fuck talks about like, I don't know, like colonization or like, who the fuck talks about this like this? Like,
okay, so the primary focus of this episode is going to be Brass. We're going to get into other stuff Billy's done this year because I think Billy Woods has been the best rapper this year. He's been the best rapper for several years, but this year specifically, I think that like his features elsewhere too. I think Elucid's had an underrated year because obviously the Arm & Hammer album, but the shit that people didn't listen to, like Small Bills and Seership.
Yeah.
The feature on the King Amani album was amazing.
Oh, I fucking love that Amani and King Vision Ultra album. I wish more people would check it out. I mean, hopefully people listen to this who haven't heard it will check it out because that shit is crazy. I mean, if anyone has listened to any Backwards stuff and has liked even one track by Backwards, they should listen to the album.
Yeah, that album is fucking nuts. But yeah, like Woods there was a comment in the comment box, of course, where comments would go on RYM about like the other day on the Brass comment box about how Woods isn't just like one of the best rappers going or writers in rap. He's one of the best writers, period. And I agree with that. Like the way he like writes and riffs off, like he does it in so many different ways too. He can brag, he can talk about a topic, he can develop a character, he can like spit a narrative.
Yeah, he really has. Honestly, like at this point, I think he's an all-time great, and I'm pretty sure you agree. Because if you look at rappers who like are considered all-time greats, they normally have a prime that lasts anywhere from like 2 to 4 years. I mean, with Billy Woods right now, we're looking at when did History Will Absolve Me come out? Because if you just start from there, that's already been how many years has it been?
I don't know. I mean, Dour Candy is when I picked up on him, but History Will Absolve Me is when his peak started. And again, if you look at Cowardly Threats and whatever, I've talked about it before on the show. I always get the name wrong. It's the compilation of his early shit, like the first 3 albums that aren't as good as everything before History. And he still was like doing fire shit. Superchron Flight Brothers, good ass shit.
Yeah. I actually recently
that's all kind of like that's a dry run for History where, that's when he becomes a fully formed fucking artist.
Yeah. This shit really is incredible. I mean, I don't know if like the morning that Brass came out, and I didn't know Brass was coming out. Like you didn't know Brass was. No one did actually. And the morning that it came out, I was just checking my email before logging into work, and I just saw this shit about a new album by Billy Woods and Moor Mother, and I was just like, okay, cool. I was just like pre-order it, whatever, and then I'll get it when it comes out. And they're like, no, this shit's out today. I was like, oh fuck. And it just like this shit kind of ruined rap for me for like 3 or 4 days. It was like the only thing I could listen to, like legit. It was either that or just like jazz music. But like if somebody was rapping, it was Moor Mother and Billy Woods. And that is probably, I mean, other than Shrines, a rap album hasn't done that to me in a long time.
I mean, there's a few rap albums that have fucked me up Shrines is the one that really fucked me up. Like, I love Alfredo, but Alfredo didn't really fuck me up. It was just a really enjoyable album that I could vibe to. Like, Purple Moonlight Pages is a great fucking album, but it didn't really fuck me up.
Knocked me out. In an amazing year for rap, by the way. It's not like...
I would never... Like, this is one of my favorite years for music ever, and it's been mostly rap albums. Like, when I look at my top 10, it's mostly rap. Like, it's mostly rap. There's, like, one pop record and one rock record, and that's about it. I mean, if you actually give me a top 50, there's a bunch of jazz and noise and, like, rock shit underneath. But my top 10 has mostly been hip-hop.
Yeah, same here. Like, for me, like, basically, like, this record, Purple Moonlight Pages, the Open Mike Eagle record, Aesop Rock, Ka, it's like all these rappers who do a very specific type of, like, I guess, wordy or layered or abstract hip hop, whatever you want to call
me on my ass, dude. I will be spending years dissecting that shit.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's not in my top 10, but it's close. It's probably my favorite thing that he's done. I think that he's rapping on such a high fucking level on that album.
Yeah, it's just, and there's just so much to dig into. Also, I mean, the way Aesop writes about his traveling and all that is insane. But this podcast isn't about him. But anyways,
no. Like, well, it'll take forever to get to the Aesop podcast because I took a long time to come around on him, so I haven't really even touched his back catalog. Honestly, I didn't get into Aesop until, like, I truly wouldn't say I'm an Aesop fan until the fucking Homeboy collabs. I don't even really like Homeboy that much. Yeah, I don't really like Homeboy that much. Like, I always thought he was talented. I thought he was hit and miss. Those two together just fucking hit for me. And I'm like, okay, I get it with Aesop. I finally got his fucking style, and I went back and respected shit that before left me cold.
That's actually really interesting because, I mean, I knew about Aesop.
I always liked him as a producer, though. Like, I heard his beats that he made, and I always thought those were really good. There were certain features I always really liked. Him on Ego Death, the bus driver song. I thought that's a killer fucking, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck bus driver though, as a person. But
he's not the best. No. Yeah, unfortunately.
But just got to throw that out there. Did you watch the when Milo did So the Flies Don't Come tenure, and he does the song about bus drivers? He's like, I really don't want to do this song, but I have to do the whole album.
Yeah. I actually think I might have listened to that because you were talking about it somewhere, but I can't remember. But I have
talked about it in the Discord because I've listened to it in the Rubiot Discord. Like, they did a whole big listening thing to it in there live, and then I mentioned it in the other Discord that most of our listeners are in. So. But yeah, so just getting back to the album we're actually talking about, Brass. So it drops. No one. Well, there was one indication this might have happened, and it was a track. There's two. Because there was the track that they dropped, which was like, was it an Adult Swim thing? Furies.
It was an Adult Swim. Yeah, Furies, and it dropped in like June. And when it dropped, I liked it so much that I fucking downloaded SoundCloud to my phone so I could listen to it.
I liked it, but I didn't like obsess over it. I was like, this is really good, but it was like a cool Lucy, and I didn't like. Now that I have it on the album, I fucking love it. I keep listening to it. It's a perfect intro. I can't believe I wasn't obsessed with it at the time. It's so good.
It's so. The thing is, like, when that thing dropped, the first thing that I thought was that I would love for these two to record an album together, but it's not gonna happen. Because I know Moor Mother is doing XYZ, and I just don't, and I can't really see it happening. You know, pandemic, all this stuff. Like, why the hell would they record an album together and release it this year? So I just never thought about it. I was like, okay, this is one track, and I'm just gonna listen to this one track on repeat, and maybe like 2 years from now, something will happen. And then.
You forgot that when it did 2020 and time has no meaning anymore, and time is on hyper fucking speed. So 2 years became 6 months, and we had a fucking album. One of the things that's like going through it, like, again, we don't co-sign Genius on this show, but Genius is a valuable resource, so I'm looking at it right now. This is an album full of just like powerful lyrical moments. The way Moor Mother ends it, where like they don't want me to die, and they don't want me to die, and they don't want me. Like, well, first of all, it's like they don't want me to shine. They don't want me to shine because I remind them of the fight. And then she runs like, and they don't want me to die, and they don't want me to die. Like, her fucking inflection on dying. I've bled the pork on the knife because I remind them of the fight. Like, like she's like saying so much in that. She's encompassing so fucking much. Like, her life being a black woman, period, though.
Yeah, like, exactly. In terms of black woman, period. I mean, they don't want her to succeed. They don't want from anything that they're doing, et cetera, like.
And I remind them of the fight, like, that's something ugly. They just don't want to see me. They want to push me into the corner.
Yeah, definitely. That, and also, I mean, can we talk about Billy Woods' verse on this song? Is just so fucking beautiful, and there's just like so many. Just like all the use of Greek mythology to me is
it's
so
the way he's like
cinematic to me.
it's not one of the Greek mythology lines, but Flaubert, the way he uses the Flaubert line and Flaubert into bare bones, into dead air. First of all, we like to point out on this podcast when somebody's doing an MF Doom thing. That's MF Doom. And but like the thing about it is like a lot of the times on this album, he has this like beautifully exhausted way of rhyming. Like his flow sounds exhausted, but not in a way where he's like tired or like lazy. But he's using like exhaustion to sound powerful.
Mm-hmm. And I think it works really well because Moor Mother is nothing like that. Like I feel like
no other rapper in the fucking world.
Yeah. Also, her voice is perfection. Like I've never like her voice is like it's like this. It has this like dark energy that's like impossible for me to describe accurately. But it sounds like if she was doing anything else than making music, then that would be a fucking tragedy. Because how can you have a voice like that and not use your voice to make music?
The thing about Moor Mother is, in terms of as a vocalist, like she's so well suited to spoken word poetry, but then she translates that into a rap context here. Like there's also like straight up spoken word poetry on this.
Yeah.
But it works so well because Woods is also kind of like he's so writerly, for lack of a better, less pretentious way to say it, in the way he raps. Like he like uses kind of like high end references to like, you know, literary references. He has like kind of this out of pocket. If you don't really know him that well, you might think he's offbeat sort of way of rhyming. Like he's idiosyncratic in that way. So together they blend really well. I think that she brings out his more poetic side and he brings out her more rappy side.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. I mean, there's so many. I feel like he sounds so fucking paranoid in this verse.
Yes, dude.
And
like,
it's just like
always fucking paranoid. Like always fucking paranoid.
Always. But especially in this verse, I mean, my good eye devil may care, the bad one slide over everything with the stare. And it's just so like that line really struck me because it sounds like he's conflicted. Like wherever he is, like he's like part of him is excited to be there, but another part is like, yo, shit could pop off at any moment. And it kind of ties into like, you know, the whole idea of like Furies. And I looked this up. I did not know this before because I know shit about Greek mythology. Furies are like female deities of vengeance that punish people who break an oath. So like, I mean, this could be like a metaphor for a lot of things because
if you want to like take the literary thread further, you can read that into Madame Bovary too. That's another literary reference. But then you also have like the thing about Woods is that he'll do the literary shit, but then he'll also do really like I talked in the Danny Brown episode, which hasn't been published yet, about how Danny has these we did it about Triple X. It was me and Sphinx. Yeah. And I talked about specifically how Danny has these really like powerful like physical images, and like Danny like will do a lot of scatological stuff sometimes, but he also has just like these powerful physical things you can. And Woods does this a lot too. Like he'll do like literary things, but then he'll juxtapose them like, you know, she swallowed the sun. That's like on so many levels. Like that's like, you know, fucking that's literary in terms of like that's elevating woman to the level of like goddess status. But it's also like, you know, she's glistening like her skin is glistening, sweat is glistening. That's a physical detail. He can take things like he takes physical details and threads them together with high literary references, does it like it's fucking nothing.
Yeah. And that is pretty much on like everything he does, pretty much. I can't think of a Billy Woods album or that I've listened to that doesn't have
a whack line, let alone a whack song, let alone a whack verse, let alone like fuck it. Like you will not hear a bad word about Billy Woods on this podcast.
Yeah, agree. I can't think of any song I've listened to him and been like, you know, he wasn't coming with it on that verse.
And this especially, like, I mean, I'm going to save what I talk about his features because there's like two features. I think one feature that goes really well together with one thing he says on a song. That we'll get to that song. I mean, normally I don't like to go song by song on the show. Like I kind of like to dart around, like. But I think chronologically is a good way to go with this album because I think it also kind of tells a story almost.
Yeah. Really? You think it tells a story? I mean, I think it deals with like an overall theme, which is
I
kind of
don't think it's telling a story like a narrative.
like okay.
No, I don't think it's telling a narrative. I don't think
Okay.
any Woods album tells a narrative. I think the closest thing you get is Today I Wrote Nothing, which is a bunch of short stories that are thematically connected.
Because I mean, I feel like here, like there's overarching themes that can more or less be applied in some type of way to every single one of the songs here. Be it like
I think it's more recurring motifs. Like you have a lot of. One of the things I noticed listening to this over and over was that you get a lot of recurring like religious imagery alongside sports figure, particularly basketball imagery. Although there's the one song where he does a lot of baseball imagery, like the one with like Ken Griffey.
Ken Griffin.
Ken Griffey, yeah, and fucking I forget, was that Rock Cried or Scary Hours? It's the one after the Mach song. But
there's a beat change for it, but I can't remember which one.
It's a really good verse. Like he talks about having mid-season form, and it's just really good use of like Billy always has really good fucking sports references. Like there's the one song on the Shrines, Slewfoot. I talked about this on the Shrines podcast, where it's like all football player references, and they all had problems or died from CTE, concussion syndrome.
Oh shit! I honestly probably didn't even catch that.
So,
oh my god, damn.
And like, there's one line, I forget if he or Elucid says it, and there'll be a new. Don't worry, there'll be a new, and this next year.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. It's like you're
and if you think about football players having concussion syndrome and just being disposable.
Yeah. Damn. Those dudes really operating on another fucking level. So the second track on this, the blues, Everything the Country Forgot. The feature.
Oh, the feature is gorgeous. The feature's fucking gorgeous.
Like, I have never heard of Wolf Western, but she has a beautiful voice, and like the stuff that she's singing about, I feel like this song just paints a really, really vivid picture of danger. And they're kind of just like, look, this is how it is, and a lot of people try to. They try to reach a target. They try to get out of this, but like the verse, like how Wolf Western is singing is like you run into a target and they just keep the target moving. And then what I love about, More Mother just sounds incredible on this song, man. Like she, like her verse, just like her delivery alone is just. It's just so it's like vicious. There's something about her voice and what she's saying. And actually, I want to ask you about what she's saying, because as you said, like this isn't like Genius is not endorsed here or anything, but I am not 100%.
I'm looking at it right now, and she has a absolutely blood chilling fucking line. Christ in your organs, clot from the brain.
The thing is, like,
I don't even know how to fucking digest that, dude.
The thing is, like, I don't know how to digest it, but again, I'm not even entirely sure if that is exactly what she's saying on the verse.
That is true. Yeah, I feel like that's probably not that's the thing about there's not a very good vetting system on that.
When I first heard it, like I heard price on your organs.
I heard you're right. It's like the price on your organs. Like no,
price on your organs. Which goes with the overall thing is like they don't care about your conditions. They don't care how you're living. They only care insofar as how they can use you for profit.
Exactly. Like, and then when you're dead, you'll be sold for scrap. You'll be
exactly. It's exactly that. And then I also may have heard clock on the brain, a clock on your brain, but clot from the brain makes sense. But again, More Mother has not.
The brain kind of works with the organ imagery, but I don't trust Genius. I really hate how they don't vet this shit. Jermainson's pretty much the only good person writing shit on Genius, or Sphinx. They're like the only two good people fucking editing shit on Genius at this point.
Yeah.
I really love how one of the things I noticed listening to this over and over was first of all, I thought about how they're specifically talking about the blues, but it also has all this imagery of like, you know, paranoia and like police monitoring, of course, police violence. It's impossible
Yes,
to
of
avoid
course.
this from the police murders that happened this year and police in like, you know, responses to protests and all of that shit. And it's like blues, like the blues, like Blue Lives Matter and all that shit. They're taking the color and kind of reclaiming.
Oh, but the thing is,
to, like, blues.
I actually didn't get that at all because the first time I saw the title, I immediately thought that like, okay, this sounds like some shit some like jazz cats would have written about. Like, it sounds like some shit that like Amiri Baraka, who wrote an amazing book about, he was like a poet, kind of jazz adjacent writer guy who wrote this amazing book that I think is called Black Music. But it sounded like something, it sounded to me like something that he would have said. And then it also sounded like something I definitely heard before. And it actually was. It's from.
It might actually be an Amiri Baraka quote.
It's actually. It's a Gil Scott-Heron quote from Bicentennial Blues, which is a song that I had heard before by him and
is it all
Brian.
America or
it's on It's Your World.
Oh, okay.
And to me, like when you talk about like the blues and you say things like blues people, to me it's basically saying that like black people, like a lot of us, we see the country for what it really is because of what it's done to us or what it's done to people who look like us. And I feel like the title and the quote goes, and honestly, that whole Bicentennial Blues track, which is an amazing song, just goes to that. Like you could do it with like music genres in like a literal sense where I've seen people doing. It's like, oh, the blues is sad and like country's moved on and singing about like, I don't know, whatever they sing in pop country songs nowadays that are popular. But I feel like what it's really getting at is essentially like, look, like black people, specifically black people who have dealt with like basically just like black people in precarious economic situations. Like this is the part of the country that sees the country for what it really is, because this is like the most vulnerable part of the country and often the most attacked.
Say that Wood's verse, like, I mean, there's like a visceral paranoia in Moor Mother's verse, and then Wood's verse kind of articulates it better, and he's not like that's the thing is Woods can switch lanes. Like he's not doing any deep literary shit in this verse. He's just saying we waited. He repeats the same line over and over. We waited and we watched. We waited and we watched. Meat in the pot. Like he knows how to just switch lanes to talk. Like he gets that sense of just like knowing your watch and feeling eyes on you and just feeling like it's only a matter of time.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree completely with that. And that is, yeah, it's crazy because like that verse, like you said, it's super simple, but it had a really, really strong impact on me when I first heard it. I was like I was just sitting there like, damn, like these people, like, I mean, that's just how it is.
Right. Like notice the cops 3 lights apart. Like that's such a little detail, but it's like, it's just how predators stalk their prey. We waited and we watched. We waited and we watched. And the song itself has like this kind of like patient, like this kind of like, I don't want to say patient rhythm to it, but kind of this sort of, I don't know, I'm not finding the right word for it, but it's kind of, it's not a thumping song. It has like a very deliberate rhythm to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, just like things, some of the shit. I mean, like Moor Mother, like Lynch swinging on the block. Like that's very self-explanatory and on the nose from Moor Mother's verse.
The thing is, they don't mention any names in the song, but you can tell exactly what they're invoking with every word.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That's kind of good ass fucking writing. Like this song is timeless.
Yeah, I agree.
It's sadly fucking timeless.
I wish it wasn't. Like, I wish it wasn't, but it is.
That's exactly what we said in the Run the Jewels episode. We were talking about Walking in the Snow, the only really good song off RTJ4.
Oh, I disagree with that. I disagree with a lot of y'all's takes on Run the Jewels, though. But that is an amazing song.
I mean, I don't know. Like, RTJ4 is a good album that I've never really come back to.
That's interesting because, like,
RTJ3 is their best album, though. Like, I love RTJ3. I think we should probably agree on that, though. I thought the stuff on that, like the Tunde collab and the fucking Kamasi collab. Like that seems like shit that'd be more up your alley than anything. Like RTJ3 isn't.
The thing is, like, I love RTJ3, but I think I might like 4 more. And to be honest,
okay, I think the beats on 4 are great. I think the beats on 4 are tremendous. I think L continues to evolve as a producer. The rapping really didn't grab me for the most part. It just did not stick with me.
I honestly thought, like, my only real criticism for Run the Jewels is that they're honestly just kind of doing the same thing.
I mean, I think that's why rapping didn't stick with me. Because it feels like they're kind of going through the motions of, like, it felt like 3 was the peak of, and also it's like some shit needs to just be a trilogy. I don't know. But I get why they did 4, and it feels like in certain pockets, there's still that energy, that passion, but that just makes it more apparent when it's not there.
Yeah,
and when they're following a template.
I mean, for me, to be honest, I mean, 4 is the only Run the Jewels album where there isn't one track that I, like, openly dislike. And that is probably why...
What do you openly dislike on 3? What do you openly dislike on 3?
Dislike on 3? Give me 1 second. Let me look at this track list because I know it'll come to me as soon as I see it. What I openly dislike on 3? Let's see.
Because 1 and 2 have ones that I could excuse, but I don't think there's anything I'd skip on 3.
I think it might be Stay Gold. It might be Stay Gold, but I am not entirely.
I mean, Stay Gold's kind of like in the middle where it's like I don't think it's great, but I think it's a perfectly fine song. Like, I mean, I don't have any strong feelings on it, but I don't think it's a skip-worthy song.
Well, I'm not saying like I'm not saying like I hate it, but like I don't like it. Like,
I mean, the one thing I would say about RTJ3 is it's the one where they have more songs on it. So I guess you could argue for trimming the fat a little bit. Like Stay Gold, and I love Call Ticketron. I think Call Ticketron has a super energetic beat, and I love the reference on it. But you probably don't need it. Or Oh Mama, even though I love that hook too. Like, I like these songs a lot, but they're probably not essential. And I think people would probably, if it were a 10-track album, people would probably think a little more highly of it.
That's true. But then again, I mean, I feel like the entire internet likes Run the Jewels 2 way more than all their other records. And I've never thought that. So,
Run the Jewels 2 is like peaks and valleys for me. I think it begins really strong, ends really strong. I think that the Gangsta Boo feature is what the kids call a bleed filter. But I think the dubstep stuff has not aged very well.
Yeah, I mean, I like most of that. I like most of that record. To be honest, the track with Gangsta Boo,
I can't say I play it all the time, but I don't hate it or anything. But it's like also not. I'm not like, yo, skip to that track.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, with all them working with Gangsta Boo, because Gangsta Boo showed up on the hook of Walk in the Snow.
Correct, yeah.
I've been thinking, like, Gangsta Boo could probably still spit, like, for 40 minutes and make a decent album. And LP could probably give her some beats that would work perfectly for whatever she wants to do in those 40 minutes. So why doesn't that happen? I don't
know. Elle doesn't seem very interested in doing shit that isn't Run the Jewels at this point. He
did
one movie soundtrack. I don't think he's really doing anything else.
Because I kind of want them both to release solo albums, and I want them to do this.
I'd like Run the Jewels solo album with maybe some other production. Not that I don't love him over Elle production, but I like to hear what other people would like, what Mike would do, what other producers Mike would like to work with.
Question though, what would you prefer? Actually, what do you prefer? Rap music or your favorite Run the Jewels record?
Oh, rap music.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Not even a question.
Yeah. It's no question. And the thing is, like, I feel like I'm being hard on LP when I say that, but LP's like one of my favorite artists, like, ever. Like, I like LP
great, but, and I think he would probably agree with you on that, though. I mean, rap music is one of the best rap albums of all time. It's just front to back fucking nails. And he's a good rapper and he's improved, but I don't think he's ever spit anything as substantive or passionate as rap music.
Yeah. That is definitely. Well, actually, I'm not even sure if I can completely agree with that, but I see where you're coming from.
I mean, my feelings on Al are complicated as a rapper. I think again that he wasn't fully realized until Sleep When You're Dead. I don't really start actively enjoying him for full albums until Run the Jewels, and even then he still can get kind of tiresome for me. Like, I find his whole style of rapping to be a little much, whereas Mike's style of rapping I can listen to all the time, even when it's background noise. Whereas L's style of rapping can never be background noise for me, because when it gets grating, I can't tune it out.
The thing is, that's really interesting. The thing is, at the beginning, LP, like, from Code Flow to, like, I guess, like, Fandam, I feel like he kind of started tightening up flow, like, in terms of, like, being more rhythmically on point. Not saying that's good or bad, but I'm just saying it is what it is. Around, like, I'll Sleep When You're Dead. So, like, for a lot of the early content, was it just, like, the relentlessness of, like, the words?
I mean, like, it was definitely like the touring of words thing, but I don't know if it's exclusively that, because Cool Keith would do that. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like,
Cool
Ultramagnetic Keith is all that shit. Like, Prince Poe and Organized Confusion is all that shit, and that doesn't really bother me.
So I will say that Cool Keith and Monk and Prince Poe, they had better flows than LP in terms of, like,
I agree on all counts.
Being on the beat. And I'm not even saying that I listen to those guys' records more and I like them more, because I probably don't, to be honest. But I'm just saying in terms of, like, just sticking to the beat and not just, like, like, I'm a word attack you and then I'm gonna come back to the beat later. I feel like they like, rhythmically they're a lot tighter than L was up until Run the Jewels. So
yeah, well, Run the Jewels, L seemed to be a lot more concerned with just, like, literal flow.
Oh, yeah.
Weird for somebody whose first group was named Company Flow, because there's a very little flow on Company Flow. It's just a lot of just, like, batter you with fucking verses.
Yeah.
And I actually if you listen to the L episode, I actually learned to appreciate that album. But I won't argue that L is, like, doing a whole lot of, like, nice, pleasant, melodic, flowing with the beat shit on it.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. I mean, Front Crusher Plus is one of my favorite albums ever. And I will never argue with anybody if they listen to that shit. And it's like, yeah, it's not for me, man. I'm like, okay. like it is what it is. But anyway, we should probably get back to talking about the...
We should, because, I mean, we might not have a good transition, but they certainly did, because that's a seamless fucking transition into, like, literally, I don't, like, every time I listen, I assume that it's still track 2, because Billy's verse just goes right into it. Like, it's like, because, the verse on Blues is so simple, it's almost like he decided to go into a real verse, but it's actually a different song. And then he goes into all these fucking vivid ass images on this song. Ants crawling on the face of the moon. They're, like, vivid and also surreal.
Yeah, and, like, the thing
also,
is, like,
one of the best fucking lines: "No white saviors, look what happened to the Cubans."
What happened to the Cubans? Yes. Yeah, shit. I feel like on this record, Billy Woods, and it's kind of weird to me to say this about a rapper like Billy Woods, because all this stuff is normally his music, but he, like, he draws a lot from, like, his Africanness and his Caribbean-ness. Like, I didn't know anything about the Trelawney Maroons before listening to this, but
Billy Woods
apparently,
will make you Wikipedia some shit after you listen to one of his verses. He will definitely make you look some shit up.
Apparently
about Billy Woods' Jamaican myth, there's a really funny song where Billy Woods and Zilla Rocca rap about trying to eat Jamaican food and getting, like, fucking harassed by the staff. I forget what it's on, but it's funny as fuck. I think it's on some like B-side of some Zilla Rocca thing. But yeah, it's literally just a song about them trying to eat Jamaican food and the staff are rude to them.
Yeah, and I also feel like have you probably pay attention to this more than I do, because you probably do, but have you got that Billy Woods, all of his lines that have to do with Cuba are instantly memorable. Like, when I heard the "No White Saviors, look what happened to the Cubans" line, I thought immediately back to, and I can't remember which record he said playing baseball in prison like Cuba or something like that. I can't remember what record that's
on. I think
but
that was on Known Unknowns, I think, but I'm not. It was either Known Unknowns or Dower Candy, but I might be wrong. I don't know. There are a lot of Billy Woods albums. The sound of plague rattling again, like there's we get plague imagery. We get a lot, like that'll come up again on, I believe the next song has a really, really good plague riff. Like I feel like that's not accidental. Like that's, we're in a pandemic. I think that's his way of expressing that.
It's definitely personal, and I love Moor Mother's verse on here because I feel like she's
oil imagery. Like she does a whole riff thing, like with oil rivers, diamond mine glitters, H&H, and all those bitches suck you up with pictures. The Queen of England on voodoo scripture.
Do you know who H&H is? I do not.
Don't know. No, I can't say that I knew that reference.
But I feel like why this verse really stuck with me because she's like, I knew it was over when I dropped a quarter in the class. Washington head ass looking at me like you are the gas. It's kind of like she's talking about like kind of like the allure of money and that shit, Washington.
I dropped a quarter in the class. Like I fucked up. I did something simple, and like I'm getting chastised for it. But Washington head ass like some old white dude. But what's on a quarter? A Washington head.
Oh yeah, that's a really good read on it. That's a lot different. That's a lot different than what I had thought at first. Because what I got from it was that like kind of like she drops a quarter, right, and she's looking at it and like head ass looking at me like you were the gas. Like it's kind of like gassing her up. It's kind of like gassing her up. How do you translate gassing her up into like non-slang? But whatever. It's kind of like making her feel good about herself. It's like the allure of money. And then right after that, she's like, "But what about this? What about that? What about like all this bad shit that all these like rich selfish people
come from money?
Have profited
on? Come from wealth." Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, another reason that you should never trust Genius. There's one line, hot and tot. That's supposed to say Hottentot, Hottet. I don't know how to spell Hottentot. It's like a race thing, not hot and tot. Like, fuck off, Genius. Like, fact check your shit.
Also, another thing, I think she says the Queen of England stealing voodoo scriptures. I'm not sure if she says selling. I know Genius it says selling, but and then like and then she raps about like a foggy ass picture of somebody sugarcane stripping, which again probably refers to slavery, like stuff like that. And it's just like basically her verse is like, yo, look at this money, and then look at what all this wealth, look at where it comes from, look at what it's done to people across.
Also, sure that's supposed to be in the kingdom of Ham. Like Ham is like one of the sons of Noah. Like Ham, son of climate change. Noah, Ham is like, it's like Ham and Shem, like the sons of Noah in the Old Testament. So it's like all these people who deny climate change are all these Bible thumping motherfuckers. Which brings me to one of my favorite Elucid lines of one of the best rap lines of all time. One of the best lines of the year is like a nudging flat earthers off the block like Hubert. That's why it's even funnier because it's like also referencing QAnon, like fucking QAnon, Hubert. I didn't even think about that part until recently. So
that song, that is a fucking great song. And also the beat to the song is insane, and the producer Olaf Melander did a really cool.
Never even heard of this dude.
But this is a guy I honestly hadn't heard of until Moor Mother did a project with him earlier this year, which called. It's called Anthologia 01 or.
Okay, that's one of the ones I haven't heard. I've heard Who Sent Me. I've heard Circuit City. I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, and he actually produced another track. Moor Mother released a really, really good single on Sub Pop called Forever Industries, and he produced one of the tracks on there as well, and it's really, really good. And both of I think he has 2 beats on this record. They're both excellent.
Now the production on this is impressive, both like individually and the fact that it holds together cohesively, given that there are so many different producers. I think that's something it has in common with the Arm & Hammer record.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like a lot of that, like, I feel like it just comes with in particular, working with Willie Green as like a producer.
Willie Green's a goddamn genius that doesn't
Yeah.
get credit. And also Steel Tip Dove too. Shout out to Dove, friend of the show. Fucking genius producer, master, does not get nearly enough work. Did brilliant work with Paul Barman, brilliant work with another friend of the show, Celeste Phone. So and I'm really happy to see that Dove had 3 beats on here. So
yeah. And before we stop talking about this track, the poetry from Imani Robinson, that shit is just. I feel like the poetry towards the end of this song is like pretty much lays out like one of like the core themes of this project. Like it's pretty overt in that it's like calculated division from the clock tower. You see the blood bank glisten. It's like clear commentary on like, you know, like the ruling class making money off of exploitation and death, et cetera, capitalism. Like, you know, it's like it's clear commentary on stuff like that. And then
that it's something that Woods has hit on a lot. Woods is always hitting on imperialism, colonialism, capitalism. I think that really, I'm not as familiar with a lot of Moor Mother stuff. Like I've heard her poetry and other content, but like it seems like these are also things that she talks about. So it makes sense that the themes would dovetail. That like a lot of this is a critique of like vulture capitalism, and clearly this year has been a year in which the vultures have fucking circled and preyed and picked on the corpses. So
yeah. And Amrita Kadambi on this song. Now I know her from one of my favorite guitarists and I guess favorite musicians ever is Mary Halverson. And
fucking Mary Halverson is so good.
Yeah. I mean,
by the way, for turning me on to her, because I did not even listen to her shit until I saw her on one of your lists, and I'm a huge fan of hers now.
She's incredible, man. I've seen her live like a bunch of times now, and it's been like every single time it is incredible for a different reason. And she's also hella nice. But anyway, Amrita Kadam, who sings on this, is a member of her Code Girl band, and she has this style of singing that's kind of like improv. It's like,
oh wait, so this is a vocalist on Code Girl? Because I didn't like the vocalist on Code Girl, but I love this shit. Like,
really?
Liking the I said something about that to you, and you're like, listen to it more. You'll get used to it. And
oh yeah, this is her, man.
Yeah, it's like the vocals on Code Girl were a little bit of a turnoff for me. Like they weren't like a deal breaker or anything, but it's definitely one of my less favorite Mary projects. Like I like her trio stuff a little more, like the 3-piece stuff. I think that's more my speed. But
yeah, the thing for me is that she has like her style of improvisation is based in part in this Carnatic singing tradition, which I think comes from India, and like you hear a lot of her improvisation, and like she just sounds so beautiful at the end of this track. Like the part of the track that like the rapping stops and then it goes into Imani Robinson's poetry, and then Kadambi singing. Like I've heard that, like I've ran that back so many times. Like this shit is just beautiful.
And then it goes into my favorite song on the album, Rapunzel. This is the best song on the album.
Oh, damn. To be honest, I honestly don't know what my favorite song on the album is.
This is the one that hit me the hardest first, and every time I listen to it, this is the one that continued. Dude, Billy's verse on this, and the way that Moore picks up on the themes, like the way they play with the Price Waterhouse fucking come see what we can do for you. Like, oh my God, dude. Like, this is Billy Woods writing at its highest fucking level, his rapping at its highest level. The way he just riffs on themes and just goes from one thing to another to another to another. Like, this is the plague theme. Tinnitus, ears, blindness on your eardrum, mosquitoes biased, like all of a sudden he goes from ears to plague, sickle cell to blood cells, Solomon and Midas. He goes back to the religious themes. Assassins need tyrants. Now he's going from religious themes to political themes. trains run riot, yellowing ads for new diets. All of a sudden, he's going from religious themes to like social themes and just like things we can all relate to. And then he's like kind of like you're all of a sudden like it's like a fucking thing in a movie where you're just zooming from like into somebody's head by frame by frame by frame.
Yeah, it is great. And also on the I saw in the comment box that you pointed out that Alan Greenspan fucking Aaron Rand.
Oh my god, that's okay.
Oh,
so I heard previously this goes together with another Billy Woods verse, and that's him on the Zilla Rocket Strong Wizard album Midnight Suns, where he has a line where he references Thomas Friedman in the Chicago School, even Jesus kept a tool.
Yeah.
Billy Woods has been reading a lot of economist books from terrible people during quarantine.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly didn't even know who Ayn Rand was before.
Oh God!
Before
a better life. She's a horrible.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was. Yeah, and I looked her up, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Wow.
And
you didn't know who Ayn Rand was. I'm sorry that you had to learn that.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot of shit through Billy Woods' music, but More Mother's verse is incredible here to me too, because
I love the way they play off the "Watch Your Step in the Slaughterhouse" line. Like he lays that out, and then she's like, "Watch your mouth in my mama's house."
Yeah,
that's so.
And also, I feel like she uses the basketball imagery to kind of reply to like I'm sure you've seen shit like this, like. Rich people, rich white people specifically, coming to people be like, oh, like, I made it. Why can't you? Why can't you do X, Y, Z? Why can't you do this? And then so like in the More Mother verse, she's like darkness guided through the air like Kobe Bryant, 08 season, the year after Garnett screaming, anything is possible. And somebody replies to Garnett and they're like, wait, no, that's physics. And it's kind of like I feel like that conversation is kind of her maybe,
and that like kind of plays off
backing that down.
You know, Ayn Rand is like a disciple of these libertarian assholes who are also like, oh yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Exactly.
High a fucking business. You know, like
I feel like her going like that's physics is being like, oh wait, no, like there's a system behind this. It's not like this
and then she says, like, you know, Castle in the Sand, offshore commission. Like Castle in the Sand is all temporal, offshore commission. It's all corrupt, closed eyes see bliss. You're just willfully ignorant.
Yes, exactly. And then like later in the verse, she goes on with the basketball allusions to all this. She's like, they up 20, so they stopped the board. It's like these motherfuckers like straight up cheating. So,
yeah, they're just like fucking point shaving. It's blue chips. Like, like get out of here. On some old dirty shit, Asan Parallel. And like, first of all, I love the way she does the fucking ad lib on Asan at the end. That's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And also, what happened to Old Dirty Bastard? Like the industry killed him.
Exactly. Yes. I'm also glad that you didn't quote because I looked at this. I was looking for quotes to the lyrics, and of course, Genius is the only one that has them right now. And when I looked at it, they had it as on some 030 shit. I was like, who is listening to this song, bro? Like, how is it? It has to be old dirty shit.
It says Asan afterwards, and she yells Asan.
I was like. It just doesn't make, but yeah.
And then of course we go back to like fairy tale. Now it's fairy tale imagery. Like we had Furies in the first verse. We are going to religious imagery, like mythology imagery. This is something that's always been a preoccupation of Woods, like on the Armed Hammer records, on his solo records, and now we have Rapunzel, and it's just so Rapunzel's hair kept growing, hair and nails, and they say and the nails. It's like hair and nail, but whatever. Like fucking genius, dude. Like like have somebody like. It's a sad day when I can say that RYM has a better moderation system than your website.
Yeah, it really is. The thing is, like, I feel like
an endorsement of RYM's moderation system, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to all the RYM mods who have been on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm endorsing neither RYM nor Genius, even though they are both useful websites. But yeah. What'd you think about What do you think about archaeology?
I think the beat's fucking wild. I think
this might be my favorite
fucking
song.
Wild.
This might be my favorite song on the album, man.
I told you Rapunzel's my favorite. I think that maybe like I can't pick a second favorite after that. Like Rapunzel's my favorite because it always hit me. It hit me hardest first, and it stuck with me. This is great though. Like both the Elucid songs are fucking crazy. The way he raps is just so addictive to me.
Yeah, it really is. It's like this. It's like you said earlier that like Billy Woods is kind of like flying through somebody's mind. Elucid gives me a lot of that as well, though the technique and a lot of the imagery is different. And I feel like the verse that opens up this track is kind of like that, because at first when it opens, it feels like it's kind of like internal, like he's dealing with stuff going on in his head, like flipping on the siren, slide behind the eyelid, trying to walk crisis. It's like a mental battle, and then it kind of gets like more external as the song goes on, or as the verse goes on. Sorry, but it's just really.
I hate that I'm looking at Genius for this right now because I don't trust Genius for a lot of verses. And this is actually kind of making me understand where Droog and Mach are coming from about this shit, because I don't trust Genius for a lot of verses. I really don't trust it for Elucid verses. Like, I especially don't trust it to translate Elucid for me. And Elucid said that if you listen to him on Call Out Culture, he said he doesn't think his ship should be written down. He's not going to get it taken down, but he doesn't think you should write it down either.
I did hear that episode, but I also heard him on a later podcast considering to do the reverse, because
he's just fucking with everybody. I could also see him just fucking with everybody too.
Yeah, he was talking about how like he's been quoted wrong so many times that he might for the next.
I guess he just like reconsidered his position.
Yeah,
like because I'm looking at this right now and I'm seeing several things where I'm like, that's probably not what he said. Like the OJ's line, I think, is one of the best lines on here. I'm reading it. I'm like, I don't want to quote this because I don't think this is the right way to quote it. Like, because it's like an OJ's, like it's a double entendre with the OJ's, like the band and OJ Simpson and the cops. Yeah. And it's great, but the way they write it's not what he said. So I'm not gonna fucking quote it. It's fucking awesome. Anytime you get like Woods and anytime you get Armed Hammer together, and especially with More Mother, it's gonna be fucking killer. And both the tracks he's on are great. They're also different too. Like I feel like he's more immediate on this one. He's a little more reserved on the next one, like on the later one. Like, because he has a lot of modes too. Like he and Woods are so good together because they can flow in so many different sort of styles.
Yeah, completely agree on that. More Mother's verse on this shit might be like my favorite moment on the album. I've listened to this shit so many times. So, like, the way that she opens it up, she says Ganja and Hess, which I've learned is like some movie. It's like some old movie with vampires.
Yeah, it's like an old, like, fucking, like, low-budget vampire movie from the 70s, I think. I don't know. And then, like, yeah, like, she does a bunch of fucking references, and she has a really, really cool flow on this, but she's saying really vivid shit.
Yeah, she really is. I mean,
and
she's
also
like basically
the fucking effects on her voice are really cool.
Yeah,
like it gets like progressively more menacing as she raps.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, and it's just like by the end, I'm just like, holy shit! Like it's. But yeah, and like a lot of it goes towards like I feel like in the second part of the verse when she's talking about pass down the chain to remind me of the pain, to remind me of the bank. I feel like she's basically just talking about like what black people are owed, basically. Like, looking like you're stealing from me, remind me of the ship, flesh of Christ on my lip. Like I mean that could be referencing to like, you know, like literally the middle passage and the fact that like, you know, like a lot of Black Americans are Christian because of that. Because so I mean there's just a lot
I might be reading too much into this just based on the title, but it's called Archaeology, and Black Ark Studios. It was Lee Perry's studio, and then we had King Tubby on the Arm & Hammer album, which was based on a Lee Perry sample, which they said King Tubby would not like. So I think they might be sister songs a little bit, especially because you have Elucid on it.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, I never even considered that. Goddamn. But yeah, I mean, when I first listened to that, I mean, there's so much. It's just one of the moments on this album. There's like a shit ton of like, who the fuck raps about like what they're rapping about like this? You know what I mean?
I mean, they definitely. I mean, I will say there is one rapper. I don't know if you've listened to him, Iceberg Theory. He's done a lot of work with August Fanon. I forget if he showed up on your list or not.
I have heard a couple tracks. I've not heard an entire album yet.
I would say that you should. I like picked up his whole shit when he on One Bandcamp Friday. He had a show on a discount. He's really good. Charnsuka, a friend of the podcast, Chris, has definitely recommended him very highly. And yeah, Fanon obviously works very closely with Arm & Hammer. And I would say Theory is like not as dynamic as Woods or Elucid. He's a little more monotone. He's a little more one note in terms of delivery. But like he has a lot of the same lyrical themes. I would say you should definitely check out a lot of his shit. Like his catalog's pretty evenly split between albums he's done, both self-produced and with Fanon and beat tapes. So check his shit out, I would say.
Yeah,
on Bandcamp. And his RYM page is incomplete too. I need to fix that. Like his RYM page is not entirely representative of everything he has. But
I feel like I've been told to check him out about like 5 times by Charnuska. I hope I said that right, but shout out to him.
Charnuska.
Charnuska? Oh, well, I just butchered it if it's that, but like he'll know he'll know I'm talking about him when he hears this. But he's definitely told me to listen to Theory. Oh,
yeah,
I need to get on that. I mean, there's just been a shit ton of good music this year. It's hard to listen to everything.
It is true. But it was hard to listen to even enough more Mother for this podcast because she alone has put out so much good music.
I mean, More Mother has released 10 projects this year, and I've heard 8 of them in like all 8. But yeah, she's done a lot, man. She's done a lot. The punk album she put out was fucking great too.
Yeah, she's super versatile. I think she doesn't get because I was also thinking about this when I was listening to either Circuit City or Reversible Entanglements. Is that sometimes like every couple of years there's somebody who gets like the savior of jazz tag, like Kamasi got it. And,
I could go in on that.
So go in, my friend. Go in. Like, I think that she's not getting the publicity that he got, and she's doing way more work on it.
The thing with Kamasi Washington is that I find that he's in a very weird space with jazz. And I want to say before even going off about that, is that I really like Kamasi Washington, and I was there on his first tour, and he's a really nice guy. Like his first tour for the Epic. It was great. I had a great time. Everybody loved it. Like, but he's in this position of jazz where I feel like he's getting hate from the jazz community because he is popular for doing a type of music that, if you listen to it with no context, is basically like if you took like Billy Harper and like Pharoah Sanders and like maybe and like a couple other people who a lot of jazz people have heard and like put like a bunch of choir on a record and made the band fucking huge. That is basically his music, and I really like the Epic, but I feel like Kamasi Washington is.
How often do you listen to the Epic, dude? Like, let's be honest.
How often do I listen to the Epic? I haven't heard it in a minute, so I don't know. I feel like last time I listened to it was like probably a couple months ago. But the thing is, Kamasi Washington is popular because he released his record at the perfect moment, and it's not because like Kamasi Washington, because of where he grew up and who he knows and who he was working with before this, had like the perfect storm of connections to be the jazz guy who people who don't care about jazz, they care about this guy. And that is the fact that Kamasi Washington grew up around Terrace Martin, who worked on To Pimp a Butterfly. He's probably the reason Kamasi Washington's on To Pimp a Butterfly. And because Kamasi Washington was on To Pimp a Butterfly, which came out before the epic, all the press involving Kamasi Washington,
he was on To Pimp a Butterfly. And To Pimp a Butterfly was kind of the jazz it wasn't a jazz record, but it was kind of the, I like jazz record, if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. To Pimp a Butterfly was I've seen this a lot of younger people's, I mean, honestly, I don't know why I say younger. I don't even know how old you are. But I'm
older than you. I'm 35.
Oh, I'm 29. So like I've noticed like a lot of people who are younger than me To Pimp a Butterfly, if they liked it, because about half of them hated it, but if they liked it, To Pimp a Butterfly, it was kind of like their gateway into jazz. And then so they look up shit about To Pimp a Butterfly. Kamasi Washington would pop up because he's on the fucking album. And then dude releases a jazz album like a couple months later. So I feel like that had like a big part to do with it. And the fact that like he's not on like Blue Note or these labels to be frank.
Brain Feeder.
He's on Brain Feeder. Like he's the cool guy. Like he's on Brain Feeder. It's accessible. Like I guarantee you, like
Austin Peralta would have gotten that spot if you know.
To be honest, I don't think so. I don't think so, and I don't know.
Peralta wasn't what Kendrick would have done on To Pimp a Butterfly. Like I don't see him doing stuff Kendrick would have gone over.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not so sure. I do think Austin Peralta was a huge loss, and he would have.
No, it was a tremendous loss. He would have been. I forget 2 or 3 albums are really, really fucking good. But
yeah, but I just feel like Kamasi, and I feel like Kamasi gets a lot of hate from like more jazz-oriented cats because of his popularity. Because they basically look
not legitimate because of where he came from, and they just like him because he's with Kendrick.
Exactly, and I feel like a lot of the jazz community has to kind of get away from that mentality, because there's a lot of people like, oh, you just listen to Kamasi, but it's like, yo, the reality is jazz has not been popular amongst young people specifically for a very long time, and I can attest that when I go to jazz shows, the younger people that I talk to are literally jazz musicians. Like I'm like
they're like
when I'm at
they're fucking students.
Like I live in Boston. I'm really close to Berklee School of Music. When I go and see Mary Halverson, there's like guitar students from Berklee are there. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like
no, I get you. I get you for sure. It's just I think that Kamasi's album was a token album, and I don't mean that as a diss on Kamasi. He put out a tremendous piece of work, but it was very well marketed. It was consciously marketed. It came out a year. Yeah. But definitely. And then the EP, like, was it an EP? The shorter thing he put out a year later was really good. It was more concise. No one talks about it. It's very good. I didn't listen to Dinner Party, the thing he did with Terrace.
I do not like Dinner Party.
You didn't like Dinner Party? It has a terrible title. Is it really?
I didn't like. I think it's like I really like the Epic. I thought the EP that came after, I didn't really like any of the standalone tracks, but there's a track at the end, The Truth, where he fuses everything together, and I'm like, oh god, this is beautiful. Dinner Party, I listened to a couple times because I wanted to really like it, because I like all the people on it a lot.
Yeah, it's got.
I just thought it was kind of boring. And I kind of feel bad saying that, but it is what it is.
I mean, his name's Dinner Party. It's literally like, maybe that's like a meta point. It's like we made you Dinner Party ass jazz for you white people.
that honestly, that might be it. I mean, if that is it, then I can say that they achieved their goal. but yeah, I feel like he's just like in a weird spot, because I understand why jazz people kind of have that attitude towards Kamasi Washington. And I also understand that if you're in Kamasi Washington's camp, why the fuck wouldn't you like get the most you can get out of this To Pimp a Butterfly moment? Like moments like To Pimp a Butterfly, like what that shit did for like the music discourse had like major publications talking about how Kendrick listened to like A Love Supreme and shit. Like it was just a really
people talking about a fucking free jazz song where he's talking about black liberation.
Exactly. It was just like it was a moment that's probably not gonna happen again for a really long time in terms of jazz and popular culture. And I don't see anything wrong with Kamashi Washington.
Though, like I remember this Earl Sweatshirt interview that came out after To Pimp a Butterfly, where he was like, "Yeah, music journalism's like a C- at best because this album ain't difficult and people are acting like it's a fucking like term paper."
Oh, I can go in on that too, man. Okay, so when To Pimp a Butterfly dropped, it was. I love when records like To Pimp a Butterfly drop because, to be honest, I don't really have that many like straight up music nerd friends. So when something that is popular drops that I actually care about, and there's some shit that I know they're gonna listen to, it's like, oh yes, we can talk about this now. But like, I felt like the general consensus for a lot of people was that To Pimp a Butterfly was a difficult album because it was very like a lot of people were giving me like, what is Kendrick talking about vibes, which I thought was really weird. Like,
well, he literally spells it out though. He literally has an interview spelling out the fucking themes.
I know, and I'm not even talking from the perspective of that maybe like the white audience couldn't grasp the. No, I'm talking about like black people were telling me this shit too. Like I was just like, I just don't. I feel like that when that happened, I was thinking like maybe a larger conversation needs to be had of like a lot of it. I'm gonna sound like an old angry person, but I guess it's like a lot of this shit that popular on a To Pimp a Butterfly level. It's just the writing in terms of what these people are talking about. I guess is just like not layered at all at any time. Because To Pimp a Butterfly, I thought was a very direct record that actually has like its poetic thesis running throughout the entire record. That's what I thought. Like,
I think from the very, very first line, which is super pointed to grab you by the fucking throat, the sample that he uses, and the example that he uses on Wesley's Theory, like he's trying to make a point. Like he threads it together with Wesley Snipes to Tupac. He's talking about black celebrities. He's talking about the black experience. This is not like, and I'm a sheltered ass white kid, and I'm fucking realizing this shit on my first listen. And like, it's hard for me to fucking understand. Like, what's the
problem? I don't know. I listened to that shit, and like a lot of people are mystified. And I was listening to that shit, thinking like, wait, like this isn't like, I don't know, who's somebody who's actually popular who can write a bit more complex and might confuse people. This isn't like Lupe Fiasco.
Right. Like, I mean, I can understand like Lupe wrote like fucking Tetsuo and Youth, which has like 7 different themes. And then, like, I mean, there's a surface reading of that, sure. And then there's other readings of that. Like, To Pimp a Butterfly, there's a surface reading of that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I knew nothing about Kendrick Lamar except for that, just look at the cover. Look at the fucking cover of the album.
I think that he kind of put it in broad strokes for you what he was trying to. The Black or the Berry was the second single.
I was about to say that the Black or the Berry was the second single, and y'all still don't know what he's talking about. Like,
guys.
That was one of the weirdest recent moments in pop music for me. I was just talking to people. And people were like, yeah, but like, it's so complex. I mean, I get it. It is in one way, but in the, what the hell is he talking about way?
He released a song about loving myself, followed by a song about how society hates us. And then he put this album cover out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a weird one for me, man.
It's like, just, okay. I don't know. Like, yeah, like I get what Earl was saying about how like y'all, like, why are y'all so fucking just the general discourse just being dumb? Like, y'all really need this fucking spoon fed to you.
I know. That's pretty much what I thought. And yeah, that was.
It's a good thing that these people don't listen to Billy Wood's albums because their heads would explode.
Yeah, that is definitely, because Billy Woods is someone who like I often like I would listen to something and I was like, yeah, that's really dope. And then, like, I'd come back, like, 6 months later, I'd be like, oh. Like, I'm probably going to be coming back to this album, to Brass.
Like, going back to Brass, where we picked up on Black Forest after Archaeology. One line that stuck with me on this is We waved every day, but good fences make good neighbors, like those mountains in Asia.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That is a great line. And I feel like the way
But
that
then
Woods
you
paints
look at the fucking lines that surround it that give it context. Numbers scribbled on butcher's paper, a bad wager, cavemen and caves building spaceships. It's like primal bullshit that makes barriers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like the way that he paints the scene, where it's basically, like
Cinders in the wind, ashes in your mouth. Dude.
So
and then like the fucking Lent, like the thing about Lent, that's like more religious imagery. And like that's the way he takes like the fucking physical, tangible imagery and threads it back into the primary theme. This dude is one of the best writers ever. I don't give a fuck what anybody else says.
Yeah, definitely. And well, Mother again is fantastic on this. I love her reference to Albert Eiler.
Oh yeah, that definitely goes together with her being like the more jazzy influence on it.
Yeah, and I also like when she says, "You
Under
should be
the
a
cherry moon in 3D." I didn't even catch that until I read that was like a fucking Prince reference on there.
And then you should be pissed that they chose Athena in her album. What? Over you, and you act like you didn't have the alchemy. First of all, so Athena, alchemy, I was like, okay,
alchemy is something she mentions all the goddamn time on all of her releases.
Yeah, and the thing is, Athena, I feel like if I take this in a more like literal, like Greek mythology sense, so like Athena is like the god of war, right? And like so, like in an olive tree, when I think about like
olive tree is peace, like an olive branch is the peace sign.
Exactly, but the thing is, like, it kind of speaks to, like, when I first heard this, the first thing I thought was, like, you should be pissed that motherfuckers are out here putting more money into funding wars, putting God knows what, putting God knows how many billions of dollars into basically in American imperialism or whatever you want to call it, and valuing that over the, basically, like, what should be basic human rights for like citizens, you know what I mean? Like
the way she writes is something that I learned to really appreciate at Aesop, is that saying something basic and human and beautiful in an abstract sort of way.
Yes, definitely. And like the whole the contrast between obviously like Athena and the olive tree is like, like instead of offering an olive branch or whatever, they're offering war. It's just a really beautiful.
Under the cherry moon, it's like also it's a clever reference to Prince, but it's also under the cherry moon. That's a blood moon.
Yeah,
3D. Like and that's like kind of taking something like in 3D. You're taking something organic and then you're making it like digital. And like Albert, it's the music reference, taking something literary and adding a musical context to give it sort of spirit. Almost. Yeah,
I mean, Albert Eiler, Spiritual Unity is his most popular release. So yeah, give it its spirit. But yeah, just this beautiful song.
Right,
and
like she's way more poetic than Woods. Like I think Woods can be poetic. She's primarily poetic. Again, what I was saying about that, like he brings out the rapper in her, she brings out the poet in him.
Yeah, definitely. And the next track, Gang for a Day. This shit is hard as nails.
This is one of the hardest beats on here. First of all,
this shit is fucking crazy.
First of all, when I talked about how they take lines and pick up on them, the Elucid shit in this
from Hunter. Yes.
Oh my god, dude! Don't mind me. I be hearing the voices in your head. Like I don't remember what Elucid song that's from, but that's one of the best lines ever.
Yeah. And I also only right.
They're always quoting each other. Like if you remember on the very last song on Root Farm on Paraffin, that I think it was it Elucid quoting Woods where he was talking about, and the very last thing he says that was a Billy Woods line.
Yeah. That is a beautiful song.
What a beautiful talk! What a bad time you chose to be born.
Yeah.
Woods line.
Yeah.
I think that was. I don't know. That's one of my favorite songs, and I can't believe I'm misquoting it. But I love that fucking song.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite Arm & Hammer songs too. It's a
the
perfect
fucking way they use that Frank Ocean sample on that. Unfortunately, they can't do the instrumental on that because I think that somebody realized they were sampling Frank Ocean, and they were like, you can't do that. You need to pay people to sample Frank
I mean,
Ocean.
there's so many. Just off the top of my head, I think Elucid says in that song, "Black men are white men too when convenient." Is that shit?
Oh, I'm bringing up the fucking Blue Farm lyric. Hang on, I got
that shit hit me in my chest.
Yeah, like that song is one of the best ever. The way Billy says at the end, "We didn't win," and I can't picture doing it again all over. That I had a really, really, really dark period earlier this year, right after like this is gonna be the most white person shit ever. But after fucking Bernie lost, I felt like I had no fucking hope. Like I felt like it's like, all right, they just flipped everybody off. They're just like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, man. I mean, not to turn this into like a hardcore political podcast, but I mean, I also was angry. So
I mean, we often go off on political tangents on this podcast, so it's okay. But we didn't win, and I can't see doing it all over. That line just resonates with me so far. Lift like a pen. Everything I wrote is in the wind. Like, I mean, smoking and your smoke goes in the wind, but also everything I wrote doesn't mean anything. And the defeated tone he has in that, we didn't win, and I can't see doing it all over. I just thought about that so much. And also the way he goes in at Lone Wolf and Cub via Gary Grice. Hold your fire till you see the whites. Like, like I actually didn't get that like Genius via like. I'm gonna click on what Genius says.
Wait, where? Oh,
Lone Wolf and Cub is a manga or like
yeah. I was about to say
long ass manga about like old man and a kid. Oh, it's a sample on Liquid. That's what he samples. Okay. There you go. All right, I get it now. Well, thank you.
Okay.
We've had a long conflicted relationship with the Genius on this podcast, but I did not realize that's what that was.
I mean, honestly, I never even looked into that reference. I was like,
I just didn't know what it had to do with the Jizza. I mean, I knew Gary Grice was the Genius Jizza, but I didn't know that's what that had to do with that.
Damn, but yeah, that song is fucking.
And that's again, like Billy doesn't use, aside from that very first line, there are no references on that. That's just very much like exhausted as fuck, direct as fuck. He can be in so many lanes.
Yeah, he really can. And he raps about so many different things, like so many different fucking scenarios, or using so many different types of ways or references to describe something. I mean, just in this record alone. I mean, the verse on Gang for a Day.
Oh yeah, fucking Peter Sellers in the Club. That is one of the best references ever. You know what that is? Like, does that you get that?
I don't, but I was trying to look
Peter
it up. I couldn't
Sellers
find.
Is an actor who was famous for playing a lot of characters. Like he would play multiple characters in one movie. My Blackface, the elephant in the room. He's a black dude, so he has to just kind of hide in the room. Like Peter Sellers played a bunch of different characters.
Oh shit! Yeah, that is fucking. Yeah, that's a really dope reference. Billy's the lines that end with "every house is a trap house."
I love that fucking line.
This shit. I'm gonna have to pull this up because I don't want to fuck this up. I don't want to fuck this shit up at all. But this is like some of my favorite Billy Woods writing. Period. Like when I first heard it, I was just like, "What the fuck?" I was just like, again, like who the fuck raps? Who the fuck raps like this? And also, like, I feel like that line speaks to just like
so many situations. You can read
so many situations. It's just like if you're a family, right? And maybe you're like struggling to make ends meet, so you try to do like whatever you can to just like
again, like you think about the lines that surround it. Like I thought she was angry. Now I know it was fear. Every home a trap house. When you think about it, ancestors is there. Every room crowded.
The thing is, like, when he says ancestors is there, every room crowded, could that be like the death of the former people that did whatever, like,
it could be whatever a fucking brother or sister who isn't there. It could be a dead father. It could be a dead grandfather. It could be like anything. It could be he encapsulates a whole fucking family like history in a line.
Exactly.
You can read that. The gang's all here. The blood's all shared. He just fucking says it again. Like, he uses a cliche to say something universal in the cleverest fucking way possible. The love is real. The love is there. Then he fucking flips it and, like, says something beautiful.
I thought she was mad. Now I know she was just scared. I mean, there's so many different, like, situations they could be.
He's telling a story. He's fucking saying things about the universal condition. He's doing so goddamn much.
Yeah. And also, okay, so More Mother's verse on this song, the second one, where she sounds like, I honestly don't even know how to describe how grimy and amazing her voice sounds.
Oh no, like he rasps the shit out of this. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And also, I only write for the dead. Something Elucid said. Wrong words get you cracked in the head. That is like one of the best lines on the fucking album. That hit me right in the fucking head.
Yeah.
Like, she definitely has like the more guttural reactions, not just in the way she makes her voice sound, but also in just, it feels like she's writing from the heart and Billy's writing from the head. Not to say that she doesn't have heady lines and he doesn't have heartfelt ones.
But the thing is, like,
I feel like overall their approach is that she's the heart and he's the brain.
That's what works so well about this record, because it just strikes that perfect balance. Because she's just like, again, like, so the way she talks and the way and how she writes, it's a lot more. It has like a visceral impact. Whereas something like Woods, like, you might have to, like, I didn't look at the Peter Sellers reference and I missed like how great that line was until like just now. Like, you might have to look something up and then that would enhance it even further. Even without.
But still, this shit sounds good when you hear it, whereas her shit just hits you in the heart.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean the line, the line about the trap house. I mean, I feel like what are the specific situations? What are the specific situations that you think like he might be getting at? Like, there's obviously, like, I feel like you could be looking at like a literal
thing. Like, it could just be like a suffocating family situation.
Exactly. Like a situation where, like, in order to earn for the family, like, you have to put yourself at risk in some type of way, and that maybe like,
or you're a teenager and you just feel trapped, or you're a wife and your husband beats you, or you're like, every home is a trap house, or like there could be any amount of situations that line applies to.
Yeah, that's just wild.
Like, her words can carry so much weight. Like, she can say so much with like one bar. It's fucking remarkable.
Yeah, that is also apparently. So, like, the second Billy was verse, I feel like he's painting the picture of, like, it feels like he's like in New York City, or his character is in New York City, and it's just like coming from like being beat up or something. Because if you take it like in a more literal sense, like, poured the whole bottle on the ground, still woozy out the beat down, gray meat inside the C-Town. I feel like the C-Town is some type of, I feel like I looked up, I think it's some type of corner store, and then Quarter Key.
Yeah, I mean, C-Town is actually the name of fucking like convenience store here, or some sort of like department store, so that makes sense. Okay. Long with 1,000 umbrellas. It also feels like a New York street, like 1,000 umbrellas.
Yeah.
Mismatched gloves, one solitary shoe. You're lost on the street. You lost your shoe, and then he's trying to find somebody in a club, but he doesn't want to be found because he's like a black dude and it's a white club. So he's trying to disguise himself. He's Peter Sellers in the room.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to tell with his narratives. He has that Ghostface, like that 2000 era, like Supreme Clientele Ghostface quality about his narratives, where he hides them in a lot of code. And that probably comes from hanging out with Wardle. I learned that from the Canox episode we did, where it's like Wardle would do that. Like, he would slather his shit in code. Like, a lot of Wardle verses that I thought were just fucking gibberish are actually just really regional specific. And if you dissect the regional code, they make perfect sense.
Man, I've been bumping a Vortal track all this for the past like 2 weeks. Mega Graffiti? God, that shit is fucking fire. It's a track that it was recorded, I think it was recorded in the late 90s or in the year 2000. But it surfaced on, I think it was the second solo album that came out in 2008. And I just heard it for the first time recently, and it is some classic shit, man. Like, I have no idea how this.
I definitely didn't appreciate Wardle as much as I needed to. Like, I always loved him as part of Cold Vein, but I was like, I don't need to look for his other shit. Like, I had the Billy Collette compilation, and he's on that a bunch, and I was just like, okay, I'm listening to this for Billy songs, but he is definitely way more valuable as a solo talent than Vast. Because I don't think Vast did anything really valuable aside from Cold Vein. And the one track on Fandam, I think he beats L on the one track on Fandam. I think he's way fun.
I haven't heard that much solo Vast, but I did hear the most recent. There's a Cannablox EP that was called Gotham, and then there was an album.
There was Blade of the Ronin, which I didn't listen to, although I acquired it. I heard it was mid, so I didn't really like it.
It was not that good. But it wasn't the worst thing ever, but I mean, I don't want to revisit it. Let's say that.
Yeah. I mean, people feel the need to eventually give in to their fans, even though they probably knew it was better to just leave shit lie. Which is why I hope we don't get Mad Villain 2.
Honestly, I hope we don't get that either, because there is no way, like actually no way that it will live up to any hype that it generates. There's no way in hell.
There's no way either dude's invested in it that much. Like, I think they're still good artists, but they're not at the level they were when they made it. And I don't think they need to force themselves to live up to fan expectations. It's just not fair to everybody.
If they really wanted to do it, it would have happened by now. Like,
exactly. Like, I think that Madlib sent Doom a bunch of beats. It's like, hey, you want to write another album? And Doom didn't. So, all right. There you go. There's your answer.
Madlib Madlib has worked with so many fucking people since that record. He's done so many things.
I want to hear the fucking West Side Gun Madlib album. I want to hear the fucking Fortet Madlib album. I want to hear the 18 other albums Madlib has promised us. I don't really care about
that shit that he's doing with Kareem Riggins. And that album that came out,
the one he did, the Jahari Masamba Unit one, the Yesterday's New Quintet thing with Kareem, that was really good. So
yeah,
I don't know how old it was, but that was really good shit. That was the type of shit he hasn't done in a long time. That was really old. Yesterday's New Quintet, that reminded me of what the fuck was it? Not Malik Hughes. The one, the Spiritual Jazz one. You know what I'm talking about? Fuck, this is bothering me. This is also terrible radio. A tribute to Brother Weldon. Tribute to Brother Weldon. That one.
I honestly don't think I've heard that one. When did that come out?
Dude, you need to hear that one. Tribute to Brother Weldon. I think it's Monk Hughes. Monk Hughes, a tribute to Brother Weldon. You need to hear that shit. It's Madlib doing spiritual jazz. It's straight up a 70s spiritual jazz ass album.
I need to check that shit out because yeah, that does sound right up my alley. As somebody who doesn't listen to More Mother, like you, what did you think of?
I've listened to her, so I know. Mom's Gold doesn't surprise me. I've listened to Reversible Entanglements. I've listened to Circuit City. Mom's Gold didn't really surprise me. I need to listen to more of her shit, but it's different for a Woods album.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a Woods album. It's different for an interlude.
Yeah,
it fits this album, so it didn't really surprise me.
Yeah, I love this song, and why I love this interlude, other than the fact that I love when More Mother gets in her bag with like the noisy kind of like abrasive stuff. But like that aside, so the vocal sample is from a comedic routine that is called, let me look it up. It is called, just so people can look it up on YouTube. It's called, there it is. It's called Kids/Let Me Vote, and it's from 1961. It's from Mom's Mabley, and the lyrics that, I mean, not the, I guess the skit that's taken from is basically the dialogue taken from it is like, it's a lot more. I listened to it outside the context of More Mother's production, and obviously it feels like a lot more light-hearted, even though it's not. But it just feels lighthearted because, you know, it's like there's people literally laughing. It's like a comedic routine.
I mean, the use of the laugh track in this feels very sinister.
Yeah,
it's not a laugh track. It's a lot.
Well, no, it's not. But the thing is, like, it's not a laugh. It's not a thing. Is I don't think there is any laughing on Mom's Gold. Well, if there is, I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't remember hearing any of it. But I was talking about like on the YouTube video where I watched where I listened to the audio from the routine. But the thing is, I feel like More Mother's production just makes it feels so much more like sinister. Like when I listen to this the first time, like I feel like chills. Like,
I mean, I mostly down the trumpets, and now I'm thinking that I'm misremembering laughter because of the dumb comment on Genius is talking about laughter, which makes me think somebody just looked up the fucking routine and didn't listen to the track.
But yeah, I mean, the song is basically, I mean, it fits in perfectly with the overall theme of the album because it's basically like, it's like what happens when like Black people demand any kind of rights or like equal treatment, like a rope on the neck, retaliation, like for wanting what we should be given by default, and that's basically what the snippet goes into. And I'm just like, damn, it's just such a perfect. It's just
and
such a perfect.
Signifies a change in the sonic palette for the album, I think, because the second half I think has way more jazz influence to it.
Yeah.
Wise, I think it's more, I would say, I don't know. Instrumentally, I think it's a little more on that side on the second half.
Right, but yeah, I fucking love that interlude. I'd like an entire like an EP of More Mother doing interlude.
She probably would do that shit. Like she puts out whatever, so I can start doing that.
And shit, maybe she has, and I just wasn't up on it. For all I know, she releases so much stuff. But yeah, I love that interlude.
No, it's a cool ass interlude. It's the only thing she produces on here, right?
It is, which surprised me because I listened to this.
Which one's the Alchemist beat?
The Alchemist did Giraffe Hunts, and if you didn't tell me that was if I didn't know it was an Alchemist beat, I wouldn't tell you that it was an Alchemist beat.
Yeah,
because
that surprises me.
That shit ain't got nothing to do.
Called as an Alchemist beat.
Yeah, that shit has nothing to do with the shit Alchemist normally does. But I mean,
Alchemist is super versatile and doesn't get credit for it.
Yeah,
he really doesn't. Like, I actually really like the 2 beat tapes he put out this year. They both don't get a lot of credit. One actively gets shit on because it's kind of like a comedy thing. But yeah, like, but yeah, Alchemist is a great producer. Where are the the Alfredo instrumentals exist. They're hard to find. Fucking Paraffin instrumentals are only on vinyl. That pisses me off.
Oh, really? I thought, but aren't the Paraffin instrumentals like? Do you want them on a CD?
Like, they're only like if you can buy them, but they're only on vinyl, and you can't get Root Farm because of the Frank Ocean sample.
Oh.
Yeah, if you go on Bandcamp, it's like they're $15. You can buy a vinyl. There's no digital.
But there is digital though. Like I saw them shits on. I saw it on Spotify.
There are digitals, the Paraffin instrumentals.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, I'm gonna look this up right now because I just wanna.
Well, if that's the case, then I need to have them now.
Oh yeah, yep. All the instrumentals are there on Spotify.
That must be new. That was new because that was not recent. All right. Well, I mean that was recent. All right. Well, I'm going to get them. Yeah. I did not know that they were on streaming. Good shit. Anyway, so back to the song, back to Chimney. This is the Mach-Hommy feature. You, as every other guest on the show, and all the hosts of the show, is a Mach-Hommy expert. So you can talk about that.
Wait, what'd you say?
No. You can't look at the Mach-Hommy lyrics because you're not allowed to have Mach-Hommy lyrics on Genius. Fuck you, Mach.
Yeah. I remember that he's talking about flipping you like $1 million investment or something like that.
Mach's always flipping you like something or other.
He's always flipping some shit. But
this is a good ass song.
It is.
I love the Ken Griffey references that Billy does here, and he again does the whole theme threading thing. Like he goes into it like a faded Sports Illustrated. You used to tear the page careful and tape it to the wall like a kid would do. This before you fell off like a page would, but he's also talking, and then the way he just like kind of takes something that's like a little kid image and then turns into a story about somebody. Like he does so much with imagery, like it's just fucking amazing.
Yeah, his writing here is extremely. It's just really fucking vivid. Like I feel like Billy Woods could write a movie, man. Like I feel like it'd be a great movie. Just like because whenever I listen to him, and in a couple tracks, I get this lot on Guinness. Like I see like scenes. Like I listen to his verse about like the way he starts off the last verse on the song, like smoke with me or not. It like immediately puts him in like this really casual scene where he's like with people and it's just like he's just talking off the cuff. He
has one verse where he's like talking about like he's in a car and the Nigerian accountant had asthma. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Nigerian accountant. I feel like that might be a song
like a story song, and it's like,
oh shit! I do not remember that. There.
I think I'm really butchering this, but it was like some. I'll correct myself later. I'll probably remember it like when I wake up at work tomorrow, 3 hours later. I'm like, oh, I got that really wrong. And then, but yeah, like he has like these details. But the thing is, he has like details about characters that he just like you can write the rest of the story yourself. But he has like 4 bars to say something, and he gives you a scene.
Yeah, and also I love the way Moor Mother opens up this song. Like so many stories told by men whose hearts ran cold. He was sold a myth. Said
he had no home. He came out of dirt, fell 1,000 stories. Yeah, he fell from earth.
Yeah, I feel like.
Oh my god, her whole thing is crazy.
I feel like I might be wrong because I feel like I might be interpreting this too literally.
Fucking like, it's kind of like a dichotomy where she's like sort of like the what's the word I'm looking for here? Like the oral history storyteller, and he's like the written author.
Yeah, and I feel like what her verse might be getting at is kind of like the miseducation of like people in general, because it's kind of like that's how it's designed to be. Like the people who tell the stories are the victors, and listening to this.
You can't make this up. Well, I guess you can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess you can. It's kind of, and listening to this, I thought like if you are in a normal school and you happen to be black and you happen to be like African American, like a descendant of.
Also, you fell right in a curse. Like you, as a person, you fell right into being cursed.
Exactly. So like. The fact this verse just screams out stuff to me. The fact that like if you look at how I guess a lot of Americans view Black history, it's like this shit just began with slavery and these people having no homes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like it got into that instead of like the displacement from Africa, and I might just be reading into that with my own personal life experience.
I don't know. I think you're actually reading exactly what she meant, but it's hard to tell. Like, I think it's deliberately vague for a purpose.
Yeah, definitely.
Arms
But I mean, it's
expand,
just,
the real imagined by the imaginary man. Like, I don't know. Like, there's something, like, again, like, every line here carries a lot of weight. Like, her verse has so much less time to it than Woods's, but she doesn't need much time because she
yeah,
does so much more with every line. Which isn't
yeah.
to say Woods is saying nothing with his, but his style is different.
Oh
She
yeah,
only needs that amount of time.
yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I just remember I wish I could speak in detail on the Mach-Hommy verse, but I really just remember liking it a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have it handy right now because I can't say that I disagree with his stance on Genius. I do have a resource for these sorts of things, but I don't know if it's up on that yet, so I can't call it to hand. He says something about the Pigeon English channel that I thought was really good. That's one line that I liked.
Mhm.
Which I think that now we're going into stuff about imperialism and colonization. Like, that's one of Wood's favorite themes, which I think is going to be
Yeah,
a big theme on the next song. So I think it's given, Mach with the whole Haitian Creole
oh,
themes that he always hits, it was definitely a conscious choice to put him in right before we do the next song.
hmm,
And then we have a lot
yeah,
of Mother on the next track does a lot of voodoo imagery. Snake coil, belly of existence, snake and man, lamb of sacrifice. Like, this is a lot of just again, we're doing religious imagery, we're doing sacrificial imagery, priest,
yeah.
head, council, 33, very fraught
And then she
number, like
moves to that.
numerology number.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about Rock Cry. We never said that, but
No,
and
I
then she
said that we were
moves.
going to the next song. I said
Oh,
that we're moving
oh,
on to. I was trying to transition to, yeah, I did say that actually.
okay, word. Okay, so and then she just goes into just like yeah, she moves from that sacrificial imagery and then goes to something just much more direct
Well,
and
they're going to
grounded.
lynch you and call it suicide. She just really just like goes from like religious sacrificial imagery to poetic imagery to they going to lynch you and call it suicide. Where are you going to run to? The most
Yeah,
one fucking object, like right there. She takes it right back to reality.
yeah, and that I feel like she does that. I feel like it's kind of like her archaeology verse where she starts off and she's dealing with a lot of imagery that is like not of this world. Like she's talking about like hexes and curses and like stuff like that. And then like by the end, she's literally like motherfucker, we work for you, pay us reparations. But like in her own like more mother type way, like we're coming for that check, basically.
More or
And
less, yeah. Like she kind
yeah,
of does that. It's like she has an Aesop way of kind of dissecting it, but she doesn't do the Aesop thing where it's all abstract because she ultimately comes to a
exactly.
concrete point at the end.
And then here she's talking about sacrificial imagery, and she just ends up at
And she ends
like,
up like, what's the sacrifice? You're the sacrifice. They're going to
yeah,
lynch you and call it a fucking suicide.
I mean specifically, I feel like she's talking about Sandra Bland specifically, who was, I think she was pulled over a traffic. She's pulled over a traffic
She was put over
stop,
a
and then
traffic stop, and they said
she
that she
died in
was
police
like acting
custody.
erratically. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said it was a suicide, but yeah, just beautiful verse,
I mean, and you
and
think about it, they said she was acting erratically. That's why snake coil, she was coiled up. Like, I think that was, again, they're using physical imagery to, like, kind of talk poetically about something. Like, they're using multiple literary devices to talk about something universal and also something contemporary. Working on a lot
yeah,
of fucking levels.
yeah, they are, and really damn well too. And Billy's verse here is just again.
Oh my god, dude, the way he fucking is he the first rapper to actually rhyme hydroxychloroquine? Also, no one's gonna do it better, so please don't. Like, I'm sure some struggle fucking freestyle dude has done it. Like, hydroxychloroquine, I ain't about that sin. I don't know, like some horrible ass fucking mixtape struggle shit. But
Yeah,
no one should else do. No one should do this
believe
because the way he does that.
it's probably happened before. We just haven't heard it.
I mean, there was an intro where he talked about like struggle COVID verses. This was before the most recent Eminem album, which has more struggle COVID lines than you could fit into a fucking vaccine box.
Honestly,
So,
I'm impressed with y'all. I saw y'all talking about the album. Like, I'm impressed y'all can still listen to Eminem because Eminem, there's a certain time where I get some with an artist where it's like, I feel like I might just be done with you, and that happened with me and Eminem a long time ago, like a really long time.
I don't know why I subject myself to it. I really can't give you a good answer to that. And I don't want to waste any more valuable time on this podcast talking about him because this Billy Woods verse is completely fucking amazing because he goes from talking about modern warfare to talking about indigenous fucking genocide.
Yeah,
like, where he goes landfill smoldering, and he ends talking about kids play war games, untoward dead braves. So it's like Cowboys and Indians, the kids game, the actual murdering of Native Americans to indigenous people. Like, this is what I talk about when Billy is just able to flip shit within one bar.
Yeah, it's an incredible verse, and I love how he ends it. Buyer's remorse for everything that we bought, but it'll still pry the pennies off the eyes of a corpse.
Right, and he used like everything that we bought. So he's talking about capitalism, but he'll still pry the pennies, and he uses the single most low denomination to talk about a dead body. And he uses the fucking ritual. We're talking about a death ritual again of putting pennies on a corpse, the eyes of a corpse.
Yeah.
So he's tying it all together, like, the cheapest shit ever for a dead body.
And then, like, I love how I feel like he's specifically talking about like the Native Americans, his own land, feel.
Well, he held it on a penny before the president's head, right? An Indian head.
I did not know that. Wow. But yeah, I mean, like, his own land feel foreign to him, and for the record, fuck a reservation rather swing in the wind.
Yeah, fuck reservation. I think that's the line where it really turns. Fuck reservation. You're really supposed to note, like, reservation. That's your key line right there.
Just like the combination of those two lines, it's just, again, like,
his own land feel foreign to him. Like, for the record, fuck reservation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the one line on the one track on Known Unknown's Washington Redskins, where it's like apartheid era street names. Now you got skin in the game.
Yeah, that is a great line and a great album in general. But the next track, Scary Hours, the first couple verses hit me in the face for a couple of reasons.
He talks about Wakanda and what he wants to say. I mean, Inoculate the Babies obviously has a very relevant part to what we're going through right now. But he also talks about xenophobia in Wakanda, which has, you can read. Yeah. So xenophobia in Wakanda.
Yeah, so I really like how that opening line basically looks at Wakanda, which is a fictional country from Marvel Comics that is pretty well off because of its exclusive access to a powerful resource. And because of that, like, the Wakanda, like, closes itself from everybody to the point where it's hidden visually and physically from other people. So it looks at this place where, in the movie Black Panther, it's all glorious, but then it looks into how it would be maintained in real life, which is not pretty at all. I mean, they truck you to the Botswana border and basically tell you to fuck off after one warning. But what I really like about this song is how each rapper's part is radically different, but kind of intersects in terms of the topic. Like, Woods' verse is pretty firmly placed in Africa and deals with how grotesque colonization is, which is
a recurring theme in Woods' verses throughout his career. He's definitely talked about materialism and colonization. That's definitely like something he brings up all the time. So yeah, that's a recurring thread.
Yeah, definitely, and just like the imagery, like flies swarm on piles of limbs, sickly white men clad in animal skins. It's just very, very vivid in how he refers to the 1885 Berlin Conference, where these people were literally cutting up Africa. These Europeans were
Right.
literally
He
cutting up
mentions
Africa
that
for themselves.
one of the things that Woods is really good about doing is bringing up names in his verses. They found Diane Fossey face down in the morning. And yeah, like Woods is very good about both bringing up references and physical aspects of things. Like he's really good about like like that's one of the things I love about him as a writer and a rapper. Something he shares with the Ghostface is that he can just bring up something that's so tangible and physical. And I don't know if there's really an analog for him. Maybe Black Thought about like the references. I don't know if we talked about this before, but yeah, he's really good at like bringing up references in a non-pretentious sort of way. Where it just seems
I mean, he's really good at teaching you without seeming like he's teaching you. Basically, it's like
exactly
the best type of, I guess, intellectual rapping. Not to imply other rapping is intellectual, but you know what I mean. Like
he
it's
solid
like
quality. This isn't the end of Reflection Eternal.
yeah, pretty much. Even though I'd like to say that I love Talib Kweli and the album, even though I haven't really liked the Talib Kweli album for a minute, but yeah. So I like so when
But then
Woods
we get
verse.
to More Mother. I mean, I think I know what you're gonna say. Last night was 10 shots, one body, which is so
Yeah.
fucking yeah.
Yeah, and what I like about this verse is that so Woods obviously his verse is to do with Africa, and her verse it makes me think of the recent protests in America with obviously things about like police murdering people, and pigs are gonna get hurt, and we're not sorry about that. But also, there's a point in a verse where she goes into colonization as well, where she says they drawing the lines right now on the map, dividing the rivers and mountains that ain't never been found. Like those lines remind me of basically like Christopher Columbusing things. You know what I mean? Like if
Right.
like you show up at a place, you're like, oh, like these like basically Europeans are like, oh, these brown people are here, but we discovered it. That's how if you grow up in the American public school system, that is what you're taught. You're taught that Christopher Columbus, he discovered something that was
I
never
really
found before,
hope,
despite the fact.
and I guess this is going to be news to our listeners. I don't know how I was going to break this, but I'm going to be a father, and I really, really, really hope that my child does not grow up in the same school system that I did, the same history books that I did, with the same bullshit that I did, where it's essentially white people drew lines in the sand and they were okay.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too, man.
I mean, that's a very
because,
oversimplified version of it, but really, white people have a very oversimplified version of history, and they kind of made it like white people's oversimplified version of history made it really bad for the rest of people who weren't white, if you think about it.
Yeah, and then for us, me being a black person, it's like,
I'm just kind of
y'all basically don't even teach us art.
you, my non-white guest. I know, but still.
Yeah. But it's like, basically, I shouldn't have had to learn about Asada Shakur from a Common song. Is basically what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
I
you shouldn't have had to listen to like Water for Chocolate, a song for Asada. You should have learned about Asada Shakur in your social studies class.
Exactly. Like I shouldn't. Yeah, but that's an entirely another different podcast. But
but just the entire idea of borders, like people, I remember on RYM were really like conflicted about the song Borders by MIA because they thought it was like a whole, like, I don't know, why is she oversimplifying the idea of borders? What's up with that? I think that's fucking powerful when she says that. Like, I mean, you can talk about Maya's politics all day long because she's a little bit like whatever in her own personal politics, but I think that's it right there. What's up with that? Like, fucking, like, I'm not trying to be what's up with that Jerry Seinfeld about it, but yeah.
Yeah,
drawing the fucking lines ultimately. Who's drawing these lines that lead to people dying because somebody in a high tower with different skin color decided other people with different skin color couldn't live there? That is the point blank period of it.
I mean, specifically in Africa, like borders are weird everywhere, but borders are really fucking weird in Africa. You got like whole ass tribes on different sides of the border. Like it's just, this shit is just
And I
wild.
don't know
But
if y'all live in this country of the United States of America, but we have a guy. He tried to, make a wall somewhere. He didn't do very good at it, but a bunch of dumb fucking assholes really liked him and tried to do an insurrection thing. Didn't work out.
not like this is president.
Yeah, no, they really,
Really
really
like
big
him.
fans of his. Yeah, they tried to do a coup, an insurrection. The media that he keeps calling fake news. They don't call these people terrorists though, because they're white, so they're not terrorists.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, that is the state of things here. And
Yep, and I think
I
this
personally
song,
don't
to
see.
get back to the song, actually does a wonderful job of like and yeah, inoculate the babies. I think I was giving that, like, I was kind of like really hung up on our initial reading just about the quarantine reading of that, but also you can think about inoculate the babies in terms of people who live somewhere want to inoculate themselves from influences they see as
Exactly. Like the colonial influence in terms of like I feel like you could kind of read that line in terms of if if colonization in this context is like the disease, right? If
what's
you
the
want to
cure.
what you inoculate the babies is like maybe because we were just talking about education. So ultimately all the problems that we have with white supremacy and all these horrible things that go on all the time throughout the entire, I mean, fucking white supremacy founded this country, America. But like all these problems that we have in relation to all that shit, I mean, education is a useful tool for for
And
getting
that's
people.
why
So it's like,
Woods and Moore are both such wonderful writers, because I feel like they're so good at taking both like this really powerful, tangible imagery and combining it with literary references, combining it with powerful delivery, combining it over these wonderful. They have such great production choices on the album. Like, this is a great Preservation beat. Preservation all over this album. Like, Preservation had a great year. Like, just
dude,
tie it all together.
dude,
And I feel
his
like
his
this is all
albums.
like, I feel like Moore was probably uh, this is not supposed to be corny, but like she was more important to this, like the sonic palette of the album, than Woods was. Like I think that she probably had more of a hand in crafting how the beat sounded than Billy did. Because I think Billy's
I
more of
think so
somebody
too.
who's like, give me something to write over and I'll write over it. And he's going to write over anything you give him really, really well.
Yeah, because I think this album, pretty much more than anything else Billy Woods has ever done, it's like if you are familiar with Arm& Hammer, this is relatively an accessible album. But in terms of like in this, if you look at Billy Woods solo work, some of this shit is pretty out there, man. Like some of the beats on this, and also the interlude by John Forte.
Oh, yeah.
That like this thing is like so different in tone that it shouldn't work, yet they seamlessly tie it into this song. It's like one of the most brilliant moments of production ever. It's so different from what's around it, but the transition is so seamless and melodic and beautiful. And I love
When
how the trumpets that come in while he's singing, they transition into more Mother's verse, and she also references the trumpets in her
Right.
verse. It's just really beautiful
Well, that's what I meant about
stuff.
her having more of a hand in the sonic palette, because I think that comes from her jazz background. I mean, I'm not saying that Woods doesn't have a lot of music background. I don't know anything about Woods' like musician background, but I kind of
Hmm.
feel like this album feels more indebted to live music than the Arm & Hammer stuff, which feels more like rapping over beats, which is no disrespect to what they're doing. Like, I feel
Yeah, of
like
course.
Kenny
No
Siegel's
disrespect at all.
instrumentals, like the Jefferson, like Kenny Siegel's instrumentals also feel like they have 1 foot at least in live music, like the Jefferson Park Boys stuff, which Kenny Siegel's 1/3 of that on the R.I.P. for Our album. That feels like very much live instrumentation, which kind of calls back to Freestyle Fellowship. It's all, as you know, the therapist said to Marge Simpson on the One Simpsons episode, it's all a rich tapestry. But
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this song it's everything on this album cannot be taken at face value. I mean, they're telling you something that you should hear, and there are certain statements that I think are screamed at you, and there are other statements that you need to do your research on.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth the time. Definitely. I feel like this next song, Guinness, is one of my favorite Billy Woods verses, just because it's just there's no like more heady like literary.
Now Billy's picking it up, like on the TV. I see fire in their eyes. It's like he's watching what Moore was describing.
Yes, exactly. He's watching. He's at home, like he's watching the protests. But also, I feel like, okay, so again, genius. I'm looking at it, says build their house with bricks, scrape the mortar in between. I think he says built because I don't know.
Yeah,
It
that makes no sense. That's a typo.
It makes more sense, and that's what I heard. But I feel like what he's getting at in this verse, it's like a combination of him like observing what's going on in terms of the recent protests and talking about how like inequality, like in its many causes, leads to situations like this. Like, you don't need a door if you got everything you need. Need more. First thought when I get the cream.
Right, like, and then he looks at everything. Everything's a little shabbier than it seems. Like he has everything, but it's still shit. Like it's still a little shabbier.
Like there's no like safety net. Like shit could just pop off and then he's
eroded. Yeah,
exactly.
Like and that's where he again uses the physical imagery to give weight to his verses. Cold light pouring in from the screens. And he uses that to give everything real weight.
Yeah, and when he says like took it all and came home empty, like that is such a powerful line to me, because he could be talking like in the literal sense, like he took something, or like in a more like, I guess, figurative sense, like he just took like what the world was giving him, like his situations, and he came home just like feeling.
Once you think about
shit, but the lines after it sound like he's kind of talking about like in a literal sense, like the cops are coming to get him, maybe.
Well, I mean, then you hear what he says as like the quote unquote hook, and then you hear the sample, and then it kind of becomes obvious that it's like more of a comment on the riots and that mindset and how people think of the rioters and how he thinks of the rioters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And apparently,
again, like when I said this album was telling a story, it's not so much that it was a narrative, that it's more just like a frame, kind of like focusing, like again, like zooming in frame by frame in on a picture while giving it context about where we're at and the people who are in the frame.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but this song, do you have any idea where the sample comes from? Because I don't.
No, I don't. It really pisses me off we don't have a Who sample for any of this, unfortunately, because it's so new. What that's about, like having an album that came out like now, nobody's had a chance to snitch on any of the samples.
Yeah, I mean, I love the sample, but I mean, I've been Googling.
I think these beats are amazing. Like all these beats are incredible, dude. Like everything.
Yeah.
Like we're about to get to Giraffe. Like we're about one away from Giraffe Hunt. Like you said, that's like a very un-Alchemist beat. Although I think that Alchemist is super versatile, like I said before. But
yeah,
we've got Tiberius here, the second Elucid song. He's more deliberate on this one. He's not nearly as like attack you RZA style flow on this one. But he's got a very, again, like he's more poetic in the Moor style, I would say, in terms of. Okay, it's weird. Like, did you listen to the Arm & Hammer Call Out Culture episode?
I did.
So, did you hear about when like Billy was talking about their writing process, where he was like, I forget, he said like, I think it was Fanon or somebody Fanon came with him with beats, and he was like, okay, and like he started writing, and Elucid's like, okay, and then he ran into a room and closed the door. Like Elucid can't write with people around.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I do remember hearing that.
It's just weird to think about Elucid's writing process, considering how like weird his like delivery is.
Yeah, it really is. But in this verse, I just feel like peace ain't the word for play, so it's worthless indeed. I feel like you might be talking about kind of like, you know, like the concept of kind of negative peace. Like things aren't. It's only peaceful because like people aren't like I guess like aware of going on, and in the same. Like I don't even know where I'm going with this. So basically, what I think that he's getting at in that in those two lines, I feel like they might be standalone because I feel like a lot of what he's doing here is kind of moving on a stream of consciousness. Like,
I mean, he definitely is doing a lot of wordplay about like internet, like webs, biohack, firewalk. Like, there's a lot of like technical imagery going on in there. But maybe a light just in and off. He repeats that twice. He has the same same sort of tick as Woods does when he raps, where he repeats a line if he really feels it. So I feel like that's definitely kind of a key to what he's trying to say here. Like, this is a dense verse.
It really is. I mean, besides peace ain't the word for play, so it's worthless indeed. Which on the outside, I think it's like maybe I'm commenting on like.
I mean, can I recondition my deep conditioning? Is like my wires is I'm not selling in my present position. Can I recondition my deep conditioning? That's a great line.
It's a great line. I feel like he might be getting at just like
belly up like a lizard. That's like I think he might be. Like again, like this is really dense. I might be completely off base here. I feel like he might be talking about people who are too comfortable in their own position. It's just like device users. It's just like people just very comfortable in like a 21st century technical perspective.
Well, actually, now that you mentioned,
touched on that before with like she'd rather be like there was that one track like she'd rather be a cyborg than that one.
Yeah. And now that you said
the record that he wrote half in Africa, half at home. And the home part seemed way more paranoid and anxious than the part he wrote in Africa.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave me in the sun, belly up like a lizard. And that. And also, I feel like More Mother, there's some lizard imagery at the beginning of Game.
More Mother has some of the best fucking lines on the whole album. You can't say More Mother without Future. You can't say Black Future without More Mother, motherfucker.
Yeah.
He just like fucking steps on this shit.
Yeah. I mean, this is her verse on this song is
like you don't think of her as somebody who can just brag on some shit, but she just like comes on this and just like
she fucking spazzes. I love that high-ass voice that's shadowing her, the actual tone of her voice throughout her entire verse. It's just, man, she's just styling on this shit. I don't even know what to say. It's just like, no Neil, just old soul. Like, just.
We left the door open for too long. Now they sunbathe in their dorm. Like, that's kind of like, I think, talking about, like, people who go to college and think they're activists.
Oh shit! Yeah, that is definitely talking about that. Yeah. Wow. one song, one drop, all they had. Now they back to waving other nations' flags.
Exactly. Yeah. Like all of a sudden,
that's like they're like into it for a little bit, and then they leave.
Then the next wave, they move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's definitely disappearing acts of all is activism. Yeah, it's definitely talking about that, especially with the context that More Mother has been like an activist talking about like stuff that is brought up on this album for a very long time. So
yeah, she's been consistent. So of course, like that would be something that she would reserve contempt for. Is just like fucking dorm room slacktivists who do it for like one semester and then move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, pop lock into the dread of what's to come. Say what, son? Think you can go toe to toe with where we from? Like she's probably talking about like fucking Trustafarians who have dumb white boy dreadlocks.
Yeah, you're probably right. Oh god, and just and a lot. More mothers in this
old soul Al Green ashy ass elbows, like she's saying that she's legit. She's not neo soul, like she's real soul, like Al Green, like here.
Like Mahalia home from tour, sort of black eyes out the window. I know More Mother has been on tour in a lot of places. She's been to a lot of places in Europe, like doing like solo shows, doing like jazz stuff. I know Irreversible Entanglements were in Italy recently, so that's a reference to just, I mean, probably really literal reference to her, just like being on tour.
Yeah, I mean, she just like this is just a good brag verse, pretty much.
Yeah,
like, I mean, like she has like shit that speaks deeper shit on it, but for the most part, she's just bragging. She can do that shit too. Like. She's a good fucking rapper.
Yeah, she really is. Yeah.
This is what I mean about having Woods on a project. Like, you don't really get to hear her do this on her other shit.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like the most rapping she's ever done over like a whole project. Because even though like there is rapping on Fetish Bones and Analog Fluids,
like, there's rapping but on the whole. Like, I mean, this is more like a whole rap project where she does spoken word once or twice and there's free jazz pockets, as opposed to stuff where there's like rap pockets on a free jazz project.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right,
and so
now go ahead.
This shit, Giraffe Hunts is just fucking crazy.
Like, Giraffe Hunts is fucking nuts, dude.
This song is fucking crazy, man. Is
this the first time we heard Woods on an Alchemist beat?
Yeah, it has to be, I think, because I don't. Wait,
this has to have been like Earl annoying Alchemist to be like, yo, like listen to this Arm & Hammer shit, and Alchemist like, maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll get to that, and then eventually. So finally, we got this because I mean, Earl has been like picking up Arm & Hammer for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I mean, one of the things I did in prep for this episode was I also tried to also listen to the Moor collabs on the other stuff. So the Moor collab on the Elucid album, and also the Moor collab on the Arm & Hammer album, which had Earl on it. So that's kind of like the big fucking convergence point, I would say. Ramses too, great fucking song.
Yeah, that is an incredible song, especially the Elucid verse at the end.
Oh yeah, Elucid. God. Like I think that Elucid knew he was on a song with Earl and was going to make sure that people remembered his verse.
That shit, and the beat change they gave him too, and those vocals in the background, which I think are fielded, but I'm not sure. Not credited on the track.
Did on that song if that wasn't him, so because he's got a feature credit, and I don't know what else he did, so I think that's him. But
yeah, that's just Elucid just destroys that fucking song. But yeah, this Giraffe just.
We're going to get to that song before the end because that actually has some of my favorite lines of the fucking year. Now that I think about it, it actually has maybe my favorite line of the year. Like Elucid, I was about to say Billy Woods is the rapper. I think Billy Woods is the rapper of the year, but people forget about Elucid. Like, people listen to Arm & Hammer albums, but they forget that Elucid is...
Yo, don't even get me started on that shit. I don't understand.
Again, there's a guy on RYM who makes no Elucid edits.
Yeah, I see that in the comments. I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Also, I don't like that dude aside. I don't understand how Paraffin and Shrines are so fucking popular in a relative sense to Rome and race music, and in the popularity that those records have gotten on the internet, Elucid is not more popular than he was. Like, I mean, he's a little bit more popular, but he has had the boom.
I get certain Elucid releases, like, but yeah, Valley of Grace. People should have listened to Valley of Grace and not Valley of Grace. Save Yourself. Save yourself, at least.
Like, yeah, save yourself. I mean, how can you, like, if somebody listens to Paraffin and doesn't hate Paraffin, they're probably going to listen to Save Yourself and not hate Save Yourself.
I mean, like, they're weird Elucid. Like, Elucid shit is way weirder than Billy's shit. I will not mislead the listener on that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You're completely right. I mean, obviously, like, if you like something like Shrines, you might listen to Searship and be like, okay, this is not the vibe.
Bernadette's not going to bump in the whip. But
yeah, but still, I just don't, like, there are people just, like, listen.
Really weird that no one, like, that people that seem to go to the Billy solo stuff, but don't ever follow the Elucid solo stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird to me because, like, does everyone just think this man isn't killing it on these records?
Oh, no. Like, especially on Shrines. Like, he has some of the, like, again, I think his verse on Ramses is probably the best verse on the album.
Yeah.
Also, his Qbert line is probably the funniest. As Tastes Better in the Summertime is probably the second funniest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that shit killed me. But yeah, it just doesn't make much sense to me. Especially, like, if you look
at that, like, his voice is more difficult, but you're already listening to fucking Arm & Hammer. Like, already it's, like, kind of quote-unquote difficult. You know?
Yeah. I mean, the issue I have is, I can't imagine listening to an album like Paraffin and then just not looking into what one of the rappers did. And Paraffin was like a breakthrough moment for Arm & Hammer as a group because that shit was way more covered on the internet than Rome. And I can't imagine listening to that and being like, I'm not going to look up what a... That's just...
Well, I mean, people see... Again, my thing was people seem to look into Billy, but they don't look into Elucid.
Yeah. I just don't... I don't know why. Though, with Billy, I mean, Hiding Places was like he was in, he was in fucking Time Magazine. He
was in Time Magazine?
Yes. It was like something about like albums you should check out or whatever.
Hiding Places? Oh yeah, listen to this depressing ass album about divorce, the Iraq War, and imperialism.
Time Magazine. That shit blew my mind. I think I saw Backwards tweeting
fucking
about
Kenny Siegel was in Time Magazine. That's fucking hilarious.
Was in Time Magazine. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like for some reason or another, that record really
that's an incredible record. I'm glad it got every bit of publicity that it got.
Oh, I mean, it's an incredible record.
I think that record is way more difficult than Shrines. I think it's probably more difficult than Brass. Like, it's sarcastic, it's misanthropic, it's like, unless you have a real problem with Moor Mother's voice, like, I think Billy is being way more abrasive on there than he is on here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like production wise, Hiding Place is probably a lot more quote unquote accessible.
Yeah, I'd say it's more accessible, it's more cohesive because it's the same producer the whole time, and like Kenny does like more melodic stuff than some of the stuff we're doing on here. Like, you don't get any free jazz crap. Crap. You know what I mean? Like, not crap.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, you don't get any like free jazz freakouts or anything because that's not Kenny's style. But like, I think Woods as a personality is a lot more depressing, a lot more misanthropic, a lot more off-putting
and cryptic. Like that.
I think his verses are definitely more cryptic. Like, yeah, you have to do a lot more decoding on most of them. Like, The second track is one big joke based upon Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, I mean that record
plays the steak knives.
Yeah, yeah, that's an incredible record. Probably my favorite Billy solo album. But I still, again, like if something like that can be popular, then I just don't understand the Elucid thing. Like, but I mean, maybe
weirdo. I don't know. Like I asked him to make me Currency records. There's one that Currency did with a Corner Boy P, and I'm like, make yourself useful, get Corner Boy P off of this. He didn't do it, so he did not make himself useful. But yeah, Giraffe Hunts. This is the Alchemist beat on the album. It's not really a typical Alchemist beat. It's not really a typical Billy flow on this either. Like he does an intro on it, and then we get a Moor verse, and then we get a verse.
It's not really typical anything. I love how the beat switches between their verses, and I love that their verses are like fast and short because it gives me that kind of like old school pass the mic feeling, which is something that
almost like a Run the Jewels track in that way, and that's like a style past the. But obviously, the verses are way more abstract, like the imagery they're using. And yeah, it's definitely not typical Alchemist because he doesn't use that. Like generally, beat switches aren't his thing. You get like two here. Like Traffic Stop, I reach for my slave pass slow.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah, this song. The thing is that verse that you're talking about that starts with the zoo had a decapitated giraffe. I've gone through like many different ways of interpreting this verse. The first time I heard it, I immediately thought like is he talking about like this song is obviously about like
colonization was bad, so you could read it as like entirely a hallucination if you want.
That's true. But the thing is when I read this and I looked so the zoo had a decapitated giraffe, a dedicated staff of volunteers. The acid was bad. The gift shop was packed, and then the gift is like Congolese hands, and so immediately makes you think about like colonization and basically like the exploitation of Africa.
Right, yeah, because it gets violent right there. Congolese hands chopped and dropped in your gift bag, seeping blood. Like it gets very violent right there.
So yeah, and then like a dedicated staff
was bad, so it's also like it's a bad trip.
Yeah.
But is it just he's an American in a gift shop and he sees bad shit because he's on bad acid?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it could be that. And then also like Darwin's
crap. He went to dinner afterwards, and it's like he's just an American doing American shit, but he's seeing the cracks beneath the veneer because he's on acid and he's seeing the bad shit.
Yeah, and then when you get into like Darwin screaming out his sleep. In his dream, it was a laugh though. Like so, like
this is the most surreal Woods verse on here. Like it's very like abstract, surreal. You can really like there's no narrative handle for this. Like
it's just brilliant. And also,
Traffic Stop. I reach for my slave pass slow, quill and ink, brittle parchment, waved through by the sergeant. That's a powerful fucking image, regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful and super. I mean, pretty on the nose in comparison to the rest of this verse.
Right, the rest of the verse is just like this weird like dream logic and acid imagery, and then all of a sudden it comes back to jarring reality, which is something that More Mother has done throughout the album. Has come up.
Yeah.
Religious, sensationalized images, and then something that's jarring reality to kind of cold water splash you in the face. So,
and also, and part of this feels like kind of painting a picture of like a people being colonized to me, because like it opens up and Woods is like
draw meridians through lifelines. Yeah, meridians.
Yeah, exactly.
Lines, flatter.
Yes.
Yeah, Rickshaw's colonialist imagery. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Almost verbatim, actually. But like when he opens it, like the son of Bruce R's Cloud Spar, and like they have bombs, like they're in helicopters, the rotors are super loud, like it feels like it's like people are being transported to where like the fight's gonna be. And More Mother, when you get to her verse, the second verse of the song, she's like in the fucking trenches, like loud bombs. I think I'm gonna be shooting. Like she's just
it's kind of like Woods goes through a checkpoint, and then More Mother picks it up, and she's like behind the checkpoint in the battle lines, and then Woods on the train home, leaving the disputed zone.
Yeah, it's just a really great verse, and even though I can't, there's a part of More Mother's verse where she goes, "The sky was red," and then after that, her voice kind of like warps a bit. Like it warps and gets like increasingly harder to understand. But I think it really works with like just like how this song is set up, because it gives you like this feeling of kind of just like chaos.
I will say,
like,
my initial interpretation, Woods does say "Fly a Garrick, spores drifted." That's a magic mushroom reference. So he started with bad acid. He ends with a Garrick spores.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's really good.
Is it all a hallucination? But
yeah, it could just be a dream about like an acid-induced dream about colonization and all this stuff.
But he also does say ancient burial ground. Like he juxtaposes ancient burial grounds with guns like supercars shifting. So he's talking about things that, like the ancient, like the colonization that made like the modern society possible.
Yeah. Yeah. This song, this is probably one of my favorite Billy Wood songs.
I haven't even begun to unpack this shit. I have not even begun to unpack this shit.
I haven't either. I mean, it's only been like, this came out on December 11th, and I've been listening to it consistently since then. I don't think that's enough time to...
I know, I felt like we needed to do an episode because it's one of my two favorite albums of the year, and I still don't think I've even scratched the surface. We do have one more track on here. I will say that one criticism I have of this album is I don't think Davey Blue's verse is great.
Really? I actually really liked it. I really liked it.
I like it, but I don't think it's at the same level of everything else.
Even though I really like the verse,
when I read it, it's better than when I hear it. Like when I read through it now on Genius, it's like, this is beautiful. But when I listen to it, sometimes his delivery makes it just run in one ear and out the other.
The thing is, that is where we definitely disagree, because I actually really like Navy Blue actually just recently released an album.
Oh no, he released a very good album that I like, but I still feel like mostly, I don't know, as far as his style goes, maybe I'm burning out on it. Like, it's the Earl Sweatshirt some rap song style. I think Akai Solo does that very well. I think Navy does it well sometimes. I'm kind of sick of Mike doing it. This is probably going to get me some downvotes and some mean comments.
The thing is, I feel like Mike been doing this before some rap songs.
No, Mike did it before Earl. Mike did it before Earl.
Mike did it before.
God bless your hustle. God bless your hustle was before some rap songs. Yes.
I feel like a lot of some rap songs is direct result of like Earl and Mike influencing one another, basically. Because I feel like there's a really big difference in like Earl, I guess you could say like pre-Mike and Earl post-Mike.
Yes, for sure. Like, I would say. But I think that Earl's features after some rap songs have been very, very, like, Earl did something with Drakeo the Ruler, which is completely different than what Earl does on Ramses, which is completely different than what Earl does on Mike's album. Like, Earl has been... Whereas I think Mike has kind of done the same stuff.
Yeah, I will say that Mike's style is definitely, I guess it's less varied.
He did a DJ Black Power EP this year that I thought was very good.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I like I like all of Mike's music to some extent. I think my favorite.
I don't dislike any of it. I don't want to get it fucked up. I don't dislike any Mike stuff, but I don't really come back to much of the newer stuff because I feel like he's kind of retreading the same ground.
Yeah, see, we're opposites on that because I loved fucking what was it? Weight of the Word?
Weight of the World.
Was it Weight of the World? Yeah, I love that album, especially the track that fucking 222 by Kia that was produced by Kia.
Oh,
That's great.
Kia's wonderful. Forever You Girl, one of the better albums of the year for sure.
Yeah, that Kia. That I'm so happy. I'm so happy that album kind of blew up like it did. Because when I first heard it, I basically heard it because a friend of mine, knows Kia through some music stuff, and then she posted to her page. She has a page called The Push that posts about like underground shit in New York, and she posted the album I listened to. I was like, holy shit. And I was like, I really hope this catches on, and it kind of has. Like a lot of people, like it's gotten a lot of good press, and people seem to really be fucking with it. And that's just been great to see. Even though she couldn't have an album release show because, I mean, you know why. Everyone knows why. There's no there's no use going into why. But yeah, the album is fantastic. But yeah, I really did like.
Yeah, I don't want to like belabor it about like. I mean, I thought Navy had a good verse on here. I just didn't think that it was on the same level as the other features, and certainly not on the same level as Billy and Moor. Like, but when I read it, the writing's great. Like, it's just I thought his delivery did not live up to his writing. I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I dig his delivery because it's kind of like some solemn. It just sounds really solemn and forlorn to me, and it works with a lot of his writing for me because a lot of his writing is kind of like I don't know. You heard the recent record?
Yeah, I heard the recent record. I really like the Most track.
I'm
sorry.
That is not happy. He's not writing about happy things.
He never does. None of them do. I mean,
yeah,
what the fuck is there to be happy about lately? So I don't blame him. And like, I don't want you to write about happy shit if you're not happy. Like, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that like sometimes I don't know. He has one or two flows, and I think that he had. I don't know, like. Maybe it's life's a bitch syndrome because he had an absolute perfect first time that I heard him on the Mint with Earl. And then every time I hear him is like he's doing some variation on that delivery. And I don't think he's ripping Earl off or anything. I'm not going to make that argument because I think that argument is inaccurate. But I do think that he fails to kind of evolve his delivery a little bit. But I think his delivery is appropriate for his subject matter, so I agree with you on that.
But so More Mother's verse in here. There's a thing that both More Mother and Billy Woods do on the song that I love, which is that they kind of take really like I guess like homely situations and just rap about those things briefly. Like towards the end of like kind of like cookout shit, like ask like towards the end of More Mother's verse, like ask Miss Beverly, we had the vinegar and collard greens.
Well, then comes to the show with the severed head of a demon. She's already like fucking
exactly. And when that beat changes, I feel like everything gets a bit more sinister. And she goes, "We round the pigs, let the kids connect the ankles." Put a shank through the pig's eye, like thank you. Like that is just, it just goes from like, I feel
like she's using poetic imagery to say something where it's like, you know what she's saying.
Yeah, exactly. Like we don't need to explain that to anybody. But I just like how it goes from like something that's kind of like, she's just like kind of like spitting about like she's using like things from her past that might be like maybe like
children
like good memories,
eating things that she loved eating as a child, while a pig has a shank through its eye, and they're grateful.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was really beautiful, especially with how that beat change hits right when she starts talking about the pigs.
Exactly. And I think that again, like we don't need to name names.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're not holding hands in this record, which is what
They're not
makes
spoon feeding you shit like we were talking about earlier. They're not really going to spoon feed you a message. And Woods has more great like fucking poetic imagery. He also has maybe the best joke on here. Told the fortune teller, no spoilers.
Oh yeah, I love that shit. That shit actually made me crack up the first time I heard it. Oh my god! And then like told my kid, don't let no white man take your picture. The way these motherfuckers act, maybe you really can't take it with you. Like that is also a very on the nose part.
Right, and it's called Portrait. And then the last line, give thanks, brethren. We did it for the culture.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a subtle song. Again, like take it back to the fucking discussion we had about To Pimp a Butterfly. This ain't subtle. Like a lot of parts of this album are subtle. A lot of parts of this album do have deeper references. This is not one of them.
Yeah.
This is pretty on the fucking nose. And all the better for it. Pork belly to the boiler. They're eating a fucking pig. They fucking end this album by fucking stabbing a pig through the face and roasting it.
Yeah.
It is the culture.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a perfect ending to an album that is, in my opinion, pretty much perfect. I have no problem with this album at all. Like, there's not
think about Navy, but you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm sure the verse will grow on me. I'm sorry I said it. Like it's I just I've heard a lot of that flow this year from Navy, from Makai Solo, from Mike. So I'm a little burnt out on that specific flow. I think that his actual words were beautiful and they fit the song perfectly. I do think the song would be more potent if it was just Moore and Billy. I will say that, but
they bring a real different
mid-lane complaint.
Yeah, because both Moore and Billy bring a real different energy to it than Navy Blue does. Because the song kind of
like Navy doesn't really bring energy to anything. I guess that would be my complaint, is that Navy's not like an energetic presence.
Yeah, and to your point,
for him on this album, maybe not at the very end.
Yeah, and obviously like the difference in like their tone and delivery is like super noticeable when you have someone like Moore Mother, who has one of the best voices in rap, I guess. Now that she's decided to release an album like this, which is mainly rap, and just killing it, tons of energy. No one fucking sounds like her.
Yeah, and I normally try and close with something about like what's the best track on this, but I'm not going to say that because you should just listen to this whole album. And I was going to say something about Elucid's effort with Lasso, but in fact, we're going to do an Elucid episode together. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm not going to spoil that. So we'll talk about Seership on that episode. We'll talk about Small Bills on that episode. Because I realized that we've nearly talked for 3 hours about one album. And it was an album worth talking 3 hours about. But Brian, Coast 12, it was a pleasure having you on. Everybody should check out your lists on RYM. Some of the best yearly lists I've read. A lot of gold in those lists. This has been the Living Off Borrowed Time podcast. Our outro music is Stagnant Pace by Can Kick, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Peace.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
now. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.